Huge thanks to Ogie. They're your go-to for the 2026 World Cup and an incredible retro archive. They've got decades of iconic league classics, from legendary 90s designs to the rarest club heritage kits. Whether it's a high-performance player version or a timeless vintage look, prices start at just £15, 4.5 Trustpilot rating and fast shipping. Use code Chris for 8% off and grab your piece of football history now.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Fan Show. It's been about 5 weeks since we've done a fan show, so we have a lot to talk about. Talking about all things Tottenham Hotspur, I hopefully will be joined by a number of guests, a number of Spurs fans from all around the world as we unfold everything what has been going on. If you'd like to get involved and appear on one of these shows, please do send me an email. It's tottenhamfanchris@gmail.com. We're live on YouTube, live on Facebook and X, so please do get involved. Spurs are currently in the bottom three. We have 4 Premier League games to go. Aston Villa away, Leeds at home, Chelsea away and Everton at home. Now, of course, we got back to winning ways after 118 days on Saturday, winning against Wolves. But, of course, it came at a price with Xavi Simons and Dominic Solanke's injuries. Now, I'm going to go straight to one of the guests, someone who I've been trying to bring on for some time. We are going to go to Grant in the UK. Grant, how are you?
I can't hear you.
Right, we'll come back to you, Grant. Right, we'll go to Steve in the Czech Republic. Steve, how are you?
Fine. Perfect, Chris. Yeah, very well, very well. Despite
Steve,
the situation with the team, yeah.
How are you feeling right now as a Spurs fan?
Obviously, really, really nervous. But it's like a lot of fans, it's gone beyond being angry about it. It's kind of I've not accepted we're going down by any shape or form. You know, it's there's still things to play for, and football's just weird the way it can turn out. You know, the results. It's not a foregone conclusion. We won't get anything at Villa. We won't get anything at Stamford Bridge. It's not. So anyway, so I'm positive that we can still save the season. When I look at West Ham's games, compared with their games, you know, I think we've got a better chance of picking up points than West Ham, to be honest.
Steve, are you confident that Spurs are going to stay up?
I think confidence is a bit of a not the right word, really. I've got a lot of hope we'll stay up. I'm not confident we'll stay up, but I've got a feeling we will stay up. So if that's confidence, then yeah, I think we'll stay up. Really, I think we will.
Jamie O'Hara on Sky Sports the other day said that he thinks that West Ham will pick up 4 points in their remaining 4 games, and he thinks that Spurs will pick up 6. He predicted that Spurs will lose both the away games against Aston Villa and Chelsea, but he also predicted that we will win both home games against Leeds and Everton. Is that where you are as well?
It's more or less, yeah. I to be honest, all I can see West Ham beating Leeds. I can't see them getting anything at Brentford. Definitely nothing at Arsenal trying to win the league, and away at Newcastle, despite their form. I don't think they'll get anything there, but they should probably maybe beat Leeds. And there's the 3 points. That's 5. Yeah, we should. I mean, hopefully we'll get the 3 from Leeds and the 3 from Everton. And you never know, though. I mean, okay, Chelsea got the new manager bounce, but they've been playing atrociously, and you just never know. I'd love us to get a draw there. Probably not. But I think at Villa, depends on who he plays, to be honest. You know, who he plays in the midfield, who's going to be his midfielder, his attacking midfielder in the 10. But I think we might get a point at Villa, possibly, you know, because they're playing tonight. Albeit they're not travelling that far, unfortunately, but about 60 miles up the road.
Steve, what do you make of these injuries that we have had at Tottenham in these last 2 seasons? Because it just feels like another punch in the gut. You know, Xavi Simons being out for so long, it probably looks like it's going to be 2027 before we see him in a Spurs shirt. And of course, it looks like Dominic Solanke is going to be missing the last 4 games of the season. And I think there's going to be a lot of reliance now on our forward players, Cowlin, Manny, Richarlison, and as Roberto De Zerbi said, Tell and Bergvall are going to feature heavily now.
Yeah. No, I mean, I thought under Ange that we'd seen, when the season finished, that we'd seen the back of that, the end of that sort of bad luck with the players and coming into the new season as well. And it just seems to, well, it hasn't seen, it's continued. And I've heard a lot of discussions that it's the pitches, the training pitches, the main pitch. It's got to be something in it, something to do with the recovery, the medical team. Everyone's pointing the finger at different things, but it's unbelievable. It really, truly is. Just when you think, like all Spurs fans, that's it. We've got, and the new trainer comes in, and you think, we've got Xavi Simons. Are we starting? It's starting to click. Solanke's back, and then they're out. It's like, feel really sorry for De Zerbi with that as well as obviously all the Spurs fans. It's just never ending. It really is. But I'm going to stick my neck out. I think Bergvall is going to, if he does play in the 10, he's going to surprise a lot of people. He does, at least he tries to drive forward, and he can get on the end of things as well. Like we saw that the goal earlier on the season against West Ham, the header he got, he was coming through a bit like old Dele Alli used to do, coming deep and coming past the centre forward. I don't know. It's going to be extremely difficult. Like a lot of fans as well, I'd like to see Paulinho start alongside Bentancur in the midfield as a double pivot. So if we play something like a 4-2-3-1. Bentancur's come back really well. He's been playing immensely. I'm really impressed with him. And I think I've been very impressed with Tell since he's come on. And he's got to start. He should have started earlier, but obviously De Zerbi's he's got to try things out and try different players out. But Tell just produced that goal in the last weekend. Difficult one.
Steve, let me give you this stat. Under Roberto De Zerbi so far in the 3 games that he's managed Spurs are averaging more pressed sequences per game, 12.7, and possession won in the final third per game, 5.3, than they were under Thomas Frank, 11.1 and 3.7, and Igor Tudor, 10.8 and 3.8 in the Premier League this season. What have you made of him coming in? Is it too late? Can he save Spurs?
I think he can. I do feel it was a late appointment, as we all said. It should have been all done when we were talking on one of your programs back in October. Me and a couple of other people were saying, it's time to get rid. I understood the angle that, Frank should be given a chance, wait for the January window, but it was just getting so bad. I think he can turn it. I think he can turn it around. I think we'll just stay up by the skin of our teeth, whether it's goal difference, the odd point. Like I said, because of West Ham's game, I know they're on a good run, but if you look at those fixtures, I can't see them getting anything except Leeds. And by then, hopefully, we might have at least got our 3 points. That's 5. Yeah, it's going to be tight. It's going to be very tight. Yeah, we'll just do it. I think he'll keep us up. I've been impressed with him. I like his press conferences. He's so positive. Even when these players have got injured, he doesn't bemoan it, or like he says, he doesn't like criers, doesn't want people crying off, get on with it kind of scenarios. So I think the players have taken to him and respect him. I think they never did with Frank after a couple of months, it seemed to me on the program. I remember a few people saying he's lost the dressing room. So he's got the respect, he's got the experience. I like the way he sets us up. Not every game, obviously, but he's got his reasons for doing things and playing certain people. I really wish that Moani would, come up trumps for us, and it's like unbelievable. He was gifted that chance in the last game against Wolves, and he didn't even hit the target.
Yeah.
And Richarlison comes on, okay, but he's doing a similar thing. He can't hit a barn door with a banjo. So I don't know who's going to score the goals. That's the biggest worry. So probably set pieces, like a lot of the people have alluded to. Agree with that scenario: set pieces, corners, free kicks. So yeah,
Steve,
you must be pulling your hair out, mate, travelling to these games.
Yeah, well, it's funny because you, alongside a number of people, have emailed me recently and said, where are these fan shows? Why aren't you doing them? And
Yeah.
so I felt so down, and that is the real reason.
I realised that when you replied
we
to
haven't
me.
done any.
Yeah.
Steve, before you go, last question for you. Of course, you're based in the Czech Republic. You gave us a lot of information when we signed Antonin Kinski. Now, what would you do if you were Roberto De Zerbi? Because it's been widely reported that Vicario has been training since Monday. Will he walk straight back into this Tottenham Hotspur starting 11? Because, of course, there's lots of rumours at the moment stating that he has agreed a deal with Inter Milan for the summer. Kinski, of course, made that tremendous save in the last dying seconds against Wolves. What would you do if you were De Zerbi?
That's a tough one, but I would keep the player in form, especially as a goalkeeper. I think the defence seems to be less nervous or shaky, let's say, playing out from the back when Kinski's playing. So I would stick with Kinski. I've never really liked Vicario. It's just personal. He always seemed to blame the defence when he let in silly chances or silly goals, and he's conceding from distance on a number of occasions. He's a good shot stopper, but like I've said a long time, that's the job of a keeper, to stop the shots. It's easy for me to say. I haven't had a drink either. I'd keep Kinski. Definitely would, not because he's from this part of the world, but because of his form. And he's in form. That's all he needed was a run of games, which I alluded to quite a while back. Unfortunately, Tudor put him in the European games, the Champions League games, and he slipped over a couple of times. I never thought he'd bounce back, to be honest. I thought he'd leave or get a loan move. So I'm really pleased for him. Pleased for anybody who that happens to. So I would stick with Kinski, and hopefully De Zerbi will get a result at Villa. Hope we'll get a result. I think we'll get a draw, to be honest.
Well, thank you, Steve. Thank you so much.
More than welcome. Thanks for putting me on first, so I can go to bed now. No, I'm only kidding.
We'll talk to you soon. Cheers, Steve.
All right, Chris. Good luck. Thanks for the invite. Cheers.
Thank you. Right, I'm now going to bring on Mr. Craig Dearman. Craig, how are you?
Well, that was a very formal introduction. It made me sound far more important than I actually am.
Craig, Grant, who I've been trying to get on this show for many years, he couldn't hear me, and I'm wondering whether it's one of those scenarios where he might hear you. Let's bring him on at the same time. Grant, can you hear me now?
I can hear you both. Thank you very much, and
Brilliant.
I'm so pleased that I'm finally on. Thank you.
Well, I know you're a big fan of Craig as well. You always tell me so. So you've got both of us. So how are you?
I'm living the dream. Living that I'm on a personal note. I'm great. I try not to think too much about Spurs at the moment. I overthink it. I'm sure you'll ask me what my views are and what I think the outcome will be. And I'm trying to be positive, but listen, ask me as many questions as you both want.
Well, Craig isn't actually here co-hosting; he's just a guest as well. So I'm gonna go to both of you. Craig, let me come to you first. Are we staying up?
God, that's $1 million question, isn't it? And it's something that I go backwards and forwards in my mind consistently and constantly, almost every day. For me, I know this is a bit of a get out, but I feel better placed to answer that question perhaps after the Villa game. At the moment, I'm struggling to see how we stay up. If I'm brutally honest, if you're pushing me for an answer, which I always try and give, I just think that everything's stacked against us. I think if we had a full strength squad or nearly a full strength squad, I'd feel a bit more confident. It's just players are dropping like flies, and it just seems almost written in the stars in a bad way that everything is so much has been against us. And I mean, if we do it, it's close to a miracle, isn't it? That's how I see it. But, Villa playing now, I think, actually. So, you never know. Are they going to have their minds on Europe? I'd love to say that we'll go up to Villa Park and get a result, but I'm just not sure. I think it could be a draw.
Grant, what have you made of Roberto De Zerbi coming in? What have you made of the 3 games under him? Because, of course, the Brighton game at home, it looked like we were going to get our first win of 2026 against Brighton. And then, of course, They got a last-minute equaliser, but we did get the win away at Wolves. It was a must-win game. They all are must-win games now. But when you look at the fixtures, the remaining fixtures for Tottenham, and you look at the remaining fixtures for West Ham, in the remaining 4 games, are we going to pick up 2 more points than West Ham?
I mean, you've asked me a couple of questions there. I think my first view on the new manager is that he's doing well. You know, the thing where he's going to struggle with is he's not been given long enough. So we've seen improvements in the performances. We was in a spiral. You know, we hadn't even bottomed before he joined us. And we've certainly bottomed and we're on our way up at the moment. Those games that, you know, he could have had, our previous manager, who wasn't the right choice. If he'd have had those games, I'm sure we'd have been 3 games ahead. I think that it was a great acquisition. It's a great manager for the future. Was he the right manager now with the time given? You know, time will say. Do I think we'll get the points? I think we'll get points. My concern is that the teams above us will get points also. So I look at Spurs at the moment as too many things have to go right for us to survive. You know, not only do we have to win, which is a big ask, we're reliant on so many other teams sort of failing. And at the moment, form suggests that's not going to happen. We need a bit of luck. You know, when I look at the capitulation that Forest, that Forest, when they stuffed Sunderland, that was unprecedented. When I look at opportunities that we've wasted, you know, if we'd have had this manager in place when we played Fulham, that little few games, we wouldn't have lost those games. And I feel that I don't know. I think time's going to beat us. I think, you know, it'll be 3 games after the next game. That's if we get a draw at Villa. It'd be great if we got a draw at Villa. It'd be great if we got a win at Villa. We have to win at Villa. So for me, you know, we haven't sleepwalked into this, Chris. We haven't slept into this. We had opportunities to correct this. You know, with the injuries, it's well, you know, we spoke about injuries, both you, I, and the rest of the Spurs community. I spoke about these injuries and the lack of investment for ages, and its neglect. So for me, you know, on a positive side, I'm always hopeful because I'm hoping for that Spursy bit, that bit where it goes right for us with West Ham losing. You know, I think we'll beat Leeds. I think we'll beat Everton. You know, the Chelsea, that's come at the wrong time for us again with circumstances. So for me, I'm most probably for the last 2 months now thinking we're going to go down. But I'm hopeful that we might stay up if things go for us.
A couple of interesting stats ahead of the Aston Villa game. Tottenham have lost 6 of our last 10 Premier League games against Aston Villa. We won the other 4. And none of our last 21 Premier League meetings between Aston Villa, 7 wins, and Spurs, 14, have finished level. Only Chelsea v Crystal Palace, 26 between September 1997 and Feb 2024, has had a longer run with no draws in the competition's history. Craig, 2 very quick questions for you. Who's West Ham star man?
Oh, did you know what? There's a few actually since January, but I would say Jared Bowen. I think, honestly, Jared Bowen is kind of their I would say superstar because we haven't got one. That's the problem, I think.
That was my point. So I was going to say, who's West Ham star man? Who's Nottingham Forest star man? Of course, Morgan Gibbs-White. Who's Tottenham's? That was exactly where I was going to go.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you could even push Somerville as a possible, but they've got those 2 threats on the wing, and the players they bought in during the transfer window, they've made an impact. Disassi, you know, made an impact. We obviously brought in Conor Gallagher and Sousa. We should have done more. We should have done so much more, and it was a gamble. They gambled, and they constantly gamble, this club, with stuff, and it hasn't mattered as much as in sacrificing the Premier League position. All it's done is made sure we haven't won as many trophies as we should have done, and that was the gamble. You know, they gambled not signing anyone for 518 days, and it proved the point that if we'd had those 2 extra players, Pochettino, if nobody's seen it, go and watch the overlap. Pochettino talks about it pretty much. And even Poch, he's so respectful on that. I don't know if you've watched the whole thing, Chris, but he was so respectful, to the club, even though he clearly thinks, you can see that he didn't get the support that was needed. And it's a constant theme in this club. They haven't done enough when we need it, and they didn't do enough in January when we needed it. It's going to come back to bite them on the bum.
It's funny, isn't it, Grant? On most of my media interviews that I do, that is a classic line that I come out with, that Pochettino didn't spend a penny in 518 days. But you don't really hear Pochettino come out and say exactly that. But he pretty much said exactly that on the overlap, like Craig mentioned.
No, I agree. But look at the team he had. Look at that. It was a young team. It was quality from start to finish. Those we can. It's very unusual nowadays in this modern era to be able to name a squad of players, 11 players, and yet every Spurs fan can name that team just like that. And to me, they didn't did they underperform? No, they didn't. We were at White Hart Lane. It was our last season. How many games did we lose in our last game? In our last season, we drew one, didn't we? Was it West Brom? And I just think to myself, the fact that we talk about Pochettino with great fondness. Yes, towards the end it wasn't. There was a little bit of negativity, but every Spurs fan was crying out for that guy to return. We haven't had, in the 30 years or 40 years, 50 years that I've supported us. In the 80s, I was fortunate enough to have Birkinshaw and all those sort of stars, the Crooks, Archibald, Hoddle, Ardiles. I speak about that team as I do that, as that Pochettino team. And for me, it was a marvellous team. And people say they underperformed. It was Spursy that Leicester won the league. And I just think that they gave me the best moments. I talk about the UEFA Cup final. I talk about the Gaza goal against Arsenal. But you know what? That semi-final against Ajax, trumps it for me. That's what being a Spurs fan's about. We have very highs and we have some lows, don't we? And for me, Poch was everything.
Grant, let me ask you, if Spurs somehow do get over the line and we are a Premier League team next season, what needs to happen in the summer in terms of the owners, the board, the management, the staff at the football club? Because we have seen so many changes, particularly in the last 2 years. But what needs to change again in the summer? Because Spurs cannot be in this position again. Finished in 17th, 22 league defeats under Ange Postecoglou. I know we could talk about that all night. Of course, we won the Europa League, but even the football club said at that time that we can't be losing 22 league matches. But we're now in the relegation zone. It can't be any worse than this. What needs to happen in the summer for you?
For me, people talk about the ownership. I'm going to be controversial here. We talk about Levy. Levy was a front man for the ownership, and if Levy had been here now, I think we would all go back to Levy tomorrow. With if you were to compare with what we've got now, as in heading up versus Levy. That said, the lack of investment for Levy, I think, albeit Levy was was the front man. Was there sufficient backing for him, and was there a green light to progress? So for me, a change, is it necessary to have a change of ownership? I like a little bit of the British ownership. I love that side of it. Sometimes it's better the devil you know, but if they was to open the shackles and invest, that would please me. So for me, I would prefer, if they're not going to do that, they sell. We become we all talk about it. We become a franchise of the stadium opposed to the football club. And for me, all we need is investment to feed the bread and butter that we all go for. And the club is everything for you, me, Craig, the fan base. So for me, unless they're going to invest, then they leave. But I don't know whether they will. I don't know. Is it better? Is it better, Chris? I don't know. Is people often say that a club in distress is a better value. So does it take us to go down to lower the value to be bought out? I don't know.
Craig, lastly, Aston Villa on Sunday. What are you thinking?
I think we're going to need a fair slice of luck to beat Villa. I'm thinking draw. I think it could be 1-1, 2-2, something like that. The trouble is we can't score goals, right? We're struggling to score goals, and so we've got to not only go there and not concede, we've got to score goals. And I know it's total layman's terms, but that's the nuts and bolts of it. And having Callum Mawani and Richarlison probably up front, possibly Tell on the other wing, it's not a fearsome strike force, is it? And Richarlison, I've always said, is the sort of like the man that you want in this sort of situation. He's been there and done it, and I do stand by that. But you want somebody else that can bang in the goals, and because Richarlison's not prolific. Tell runs around, he really tries. You can see he's passionate, and that's what you want to see. Callum Mawani, I think we can all agree, he just hasn't lived up to the billing. So, perhaps Callum Mawani's going to come good in these last 4 games. We need something to happen. We need an absolute miracle. Callum Mawani scoring a couple of goals would be lovely, wouldn't it? But I just can't see it. So I'm going to go for a optimistic draw, I think.
Well, Craig, thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you on the podcast after the Villa game on Sunday. Grant, is there anything else that you would like to add or discuss before you go?
No, I'm going to predict a win for Spurs on Sunday, at least a draw. I think it's a tough ask, as Craig has said, but I'm optimistic that we won't lose, and I'm hoping for a win. But I think, I think we'll win or draw. Okay, and again, thanks for having me on, Chris, and I'll speak to you soon.
Cheers, Grant. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fingers crossed that we can get something at Villa Park, because these points are much needed. We're going to go to Manny. Manny, how are you?
Chris, it's a pleasure and an honour to be on with you, my friend. It really is.
Thank you so much. How are you feeling right now as a Spurs fan, and where are we talking to you from?
I live in Amersham, but I'm a season ticket holder with my brother. And in fact, a few years ago when you did the marathon, my brother sponsored you on our behalf, I seem to remember.
Thank you.
Chris, I was at every single Cup success in person throughout all the 70s and the 80s, every single one. I was also there the day we got relegated in 77. I remember walking back to Northumberland Park. I remember people throwing their scarves on the floor. I remember being on the train going back to Ponders End, where my parents' house was. And in those days, we had the trains, you could open up the window upwards, and people scarves out. It was a pretty full time that game. Why did I want to come on here? We're back on, yeah?
It's all right, Manny. Yeah, you struggled a little bit with the Wi-Fi, but I can hear you now.
Okay, mate. I wrote to you 15 months ago. I did it via Ricky Sachs because I wasn't sure of your email address. I'm not on Twitter or Facebook or any of those things. But I was desperate to write to you 15 months ago. It was Christmas time with Ange's second season. And it was in response to 2 of your colleagues, who I love all your guests, please don't get me wrong. But it was Darren Altman that had me screaming at the screen. And it was also Ricky Norwood as well, who was still backing Ange. But it was Darren, when he came out, you can go back and you can check this. We were sandwiched between League Cup semi-finals with Liverpool, and we had the second leg up at Anfield.
Yeah.
And Darren said we could almost not worry about the Newcastle home game. I think we lost it 2-1 that time. And we should prioritise the League Cup semi-final return at Anfield. I've seen relegation before, Chris, and this has been coming. This hasn't been a few months, like Craig said a while back on one of your shows. This has been coming for months and months and months. when we did get relegated the year before, or 2 years before, I can't remember which. I'm sorry, I should have checked this out before coming on your show. We nearly got relegated before then, and we had a home game, ironically, with Leeds. I was away in Europe. It was a university degree thing, and I had to be in Europe for a term. And I was desperate to get the home result against Leeds. I think we beat them 4-1 and staved off relegation then. There are parallels today to then. This has been coming for months and months and months, Chris. Yeah. And we cannot make the same mistake again should we stay up.
Manny, do you think that Thomas Frank should have gone a lot sooner?
No. Oh, yeah. 100%. And can I say that's not hindsight speaking? I was delighted with his appointment. I would be lying if I said I wasn't. I thought it was a good appointment. Ange was completely out of his depth, Chris. And you cannot forsake the league form to win that European trophy. And the difference between perhaps you and me is I've been lucky in my life. I've seen success. All right, I've seen all the cup wins, right? And I know how often over the years you were desperate to win a trophy, which I love, you know.
Yeah.
So, but I've seen that success, Chris. You know, there is a tiny part of me that has to say, was the price too high? And I was there with my brother in Bilbao, like I know you were. I was also there in 2019. For the Liverpool game in Madrid as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We cannot make these mistakes again, Chris. But you know, we'll see what happens.
Manny, do you think that we are going to be relegated?
I'll tell you what I think. I think if West Ham drop points at the weekend and we win at Villa Park, which we have done in the past, I think we've got a real chance.
Do you think it's better playing first or playing second? Because it seems that West Ham are playing first a lot of the times before us.
Yeah. What happened with Leicester when we had the title challenge? They were always going in front of us, weren't they? And you could tell at the time it was a pain.
Yeah.
But never mind, you know.
Manny, if I was to ask you to predict the next 4 results in the Premier League, Aston Villa away, Leeds at home, Chelsea away, Everton at home, how many points are we picking up?
I can't do that because if it was Igor Tudor or if it was Thomas Frank in charge, I could give you those predictions immediately. But the wild card here is De Zerbi. Yeah. We've finally got a really good manager, and let's pray we keep hold of him, whatever happens. If we're in the Premier League, I think we keep him. If we're not, I have no idea, like anybody does. I think he'll stay, but I simply don't know. But he is the wild card, and with him, we have a chance. But we've got to see what happens at the weekend. I don't know.
Manny, last question for you. Where do you think the goals are coming from? Because, you know, when you look at the amount of injuries that we've got, particularly in the final third. And, you know, like I said earlier, we're now really reliant on the likes of Cowlin, Richarlison, and particularly in the creative areas, now Matisse Tell, who has shown promise in recent weeks, and of course, Lucas Bergvall.
I don't know, but what I do know is that we got a manager that might be able to solve the issue. That's what I do know. I have a full faith in him. And if he doesn't do it, he doesn't get us over the line, there is not a scintilla of blame that you can put at De Zerbi's door.
Yeah. Well, Manny, great to talk to you. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to talk to you. And I just wanted to do it because I feel, you know, use any platform possible, yours, anyone's, but we cannot make these mistakes again, Chris. We just can't.
Yeah, well said. And you're always very welcome to come on. And yeah, we'll be doing these fan shows regularly for the next 4 weeks or so while the season's still here. So hopefully we can talk to you again soon.
It's a pleasure, and let's hope it all works out. Cheers, mate.
Absolutely. Fingers crossed. Cheers. Thanks, Manny. Right, we're now going to go all the way to Turkey to speak to our good friend Ogie. Ogie, how are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. I was obviously in London up until a couple of days ago. I went for like a last-minute quick break. But how yeah, just Oh, it was great, mate. It's been about nearly 5 years since I last went. I miss it so much. I really, really want to come back. And yeah, just trying to find a way. Like maybe I'm applying for jobs and stuff. Trying to find something. So if any of the people watching, if they, I've worked in finance before, investments. I've done sales. So if anybody's interested in a reliable Brit who's living in Istanbul at the moment, my email address is there. So do email me.
Did you visit the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium when you were here?
I didn't get a chance. I wanted to, but I didn't get a chance. I was going to on the Saturday, but I ended up meeting a couple of my ex-colleagues, and I was kind of speaking to them, trying to get the rundown on how things are and anything for me to, apply, so it was kind of like, it was either that and, but hopefully maybe in the near future, I can come back again. I do, because I haven't seen the new stadium at all. So I was really desperate to see it, but just didn't have the time at all. But I am worried, obviously, what's happening with the club. I'm really, really upset,
Yeah, I feel exactly the same. I think that this is very, very upsetting for us to see, particularly when, we've got this fantastic stadium, moved in there in 2019. And like a couple of the guests have already alluded to, the team that Pochettino had when we moved into that stadium, look at the quality difference now in 2026, and we're sitting in the bottom three. Ogie, I'm going to go straight in and ask you a very direct question. Are we staying up?
I've got to be honest with you. I would say 60%, 70%. I think we can do it. Just like the gentleman before me said, I think the difference is De Zerbi. It's a shame we didn't really get him in before, but we definitely have somebody who's competent. I think he's a manager that all the players respect and are probably getting behind. And essentially, look, we're running out of games. And I think if anybody can motivate the players and bring them together and kind of build that fighting spirit, I think he's the man to do it. Unfortunately,
I was going to ask, Ogie, do you ever get the feeling that, I know a lot of people say this, but do you ever get the feeling like Spurs are cursed? Because when De Zerbi come in like 4 weeks ago, he's now lost 4 players for the remainder of this season. It's just like, it doesn't just rain, it absolutely pours, and there's thunderstorms at Tottenham all the time.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm going to repeat what's already kind of been said, not just tonight, but all the last couple of weeks. I think it's been discussed at great length on Sky Sports and things. You have to, I think, no matter what happens at the end of the season, there has to be a real, investigation as to how, because this is not just this season, it's the last couple of seasons. And I know people are talking about pitches and things like that, but it's the same for all the teams. And, when you look at all the other teams, I mean, are you telling me that Man City and Arsenal's and all these other teams are playing, less intense games and playing in different kind of pitches? They're all, all of these teams are playing. And, I would say at least for the last 3 seasons, we've had this problem. And I don't know, obviously, I don't know the full name of everybody that works for the club, the physios, in the back room, the backroom staff. But I just wonder if there has been this massive change over the last 2-3 seasons, and is that the reason? And there has to be an inquest as to how these injuries are happening, and not just the injuries. It seems to be like even after, let's say, players coming back, like Kudus breaking down again, and we've seen this happen to other players before. I mean, Kulusevski is supposed to have come back at least on 2 or 3 different occasions this season, and it just seems to keep, he seems to keep breaking down, and it keeps getting, I mean, we haven't. Arguably, Kulusevski is one of our best players. After Sonny and Kane went, you can argue he was one of our best players, and we haven't seen him for exactly a year now on the pitch.
Well, Am's come out and said it was just a knock. He was told it was just a knock, and now it's been a year.
Exactly. So it's, there's got to be an inquest. I mean, and also, again, you spoke about it with the gentleman previously. I think it's criminal, the lack of business that we did, because we already had a number of players out for the long term, and the lack of business that we did at Christmas is absolutely criminal. And if the unthinkable happens and we go down this season, I can't see how Vinay and Johan Lange keep their job. I think I just, especially this season, the way they've steered the club and the mistakes, like the appointment of Igor Tudor. Why couldn't they? Not only did they wait too long to sack Thomas Frank, because we already saw things weren't good, at the beginning of December. They didn't take action. And then when they did eventually take action, they go and hire someone who's got no Premier League experience. Instead of just, going to, De Zerbi was available at that time when they appointed, Igor Tudor. So, they could have gone to De Zerbi then and, said, look, this is the situation. Come in. If you do well, keep us up, or take us up the table, nice big bonus for you at the end of it. And also possibly promise him a war chest, for the end of the season. But there's a lot of things that has to change at this club. There has to be a lot of inquest. Now, I'm not saying what's happened this season vindicates Levy, but it also, I think, shows that it wasn't just Levy who was limiting the club's spending. I think when you look at, because, all right, the children of Joe Lewis have now taken over. However, it just seems to be that the whole Lewis family, whether it was Joe Lewis originally, and now the kids who have now, and his family members who have taken over the day-to-day running of the club. Either way, when you look at I know January is a tough time to do transfers, but still, knowing the problems that we had, and all it would have taken was another 2-3 players to get injured, and we would have been in this position. So why gamble? We are a big club. We're supposed to be the 9th richest club in the world of football, not just in Britain. In the world of football, we're the 9th richest club in the world. We have that stadium. Spurs getting relegated is unthinkable. So even if you have to go out there and pay over the odds or get a bunch of, loan players in with options to buy at the end of the season, they should have reinforced this squad much better than just 2 players that we brought in, which was Conor Gallagher and De Souza. But
Ogie,
I know.
Ogie, let me ask you, if Ange Postecoglou had season 3, and it's funny because Teddy Sheringham said this in the last 24 hours in an interview, stating that Ange Postecoglou must be sitting at home thinking, how on earth am I not managing Tottenham? If Spurs had stuck with Ange Postecoglou for the 3rd season, where do you think we'd be in the Premier League table now?
If I had to be honest, Chris, I think we still probably would have been around about the same situation. I think instead of Thomas Frank, we probably would have ended up sacking Ange.
Okay. So the next question is, where would we be if we would have stuck with Thomas Frank?
Oh, we'd. I don't. It's probably second to probably be in Burnley's position right now.
So where would we be if we'd have stuck with Igor Tudor?
Similar, I think. Although I guess you can argue since the De Zerbi's come in, he's had 2 games and he's had 2 games, right? Am I correct? And he's
3.
won 1. So 3. Sorry, yeah, sorry. So he's had a loss. He had a draw, which really we should have won. We should have beaten Brighton. I mean, it's But yeah, a draw and a win. So, well, at least it looks like it's going in the right direction. So he started with a loss, then it was a draw, and it's a win. So, I am hopeful, though. I think I've got a feeling like, especially for this weekend, I think this weekend, it just feels like everything is hopefully moving in the right direction. And like, I just want to refer to the table, right, Chris? So obviously we play Villa this weekend, right? Now Villa are sitting 5th on 58 points and Brighton are 6th on 50 points. There's 8-point gap between Villa and Brighton. Now, obviously Villa are playing tonight. Now, if let's say it ends as a draw, or let's say Forest. Now, as far as I know, I've been keeping up with the first half, and apparently Forest came very close to scoring a goal. And it looks like Forest seems to be a little bit on the up against Villa so far. And I mean, of course, they are playing at home. So if let's say Forest finish the game 1-0 or 2-1, winners of this game. Well, Villa are definitely going to want to keep, possibly, because even if they lose to us at the weekend, they're not going to lose any ground on their 5th position. Because I think this season 5th also gets you Champions League, right? Am I correct? Potentially.
Yeah.
So right now, Villa and Liverpool are both on 58 points. So even if, say, Villa lost to us or lost points to us, even if it was a draw, they're not going to, even if Brighton win their match, there's still going to be at least 3-4 points difference between them. And the other way, you look at Forest. Now, Forest are playing on Monday away to Chelsea. And Chelsea's going to need to have a bounce back because Chelsea's down there at 8, but they're on 48 points. Now, they can technically still make it into Europe. So they're going to want to win all the rest of their games. So they're going to definitely be up for that game. So it's not going to be easy for Forest. I'm saying, Forest are on their day capable of beating Chelsea because they haven't been great so far. But, the fact that the manager got the sack, they've got potentially a new manager bounce. Those players potentially are going to be up for it. So, and then you've got Brentford also on 48 points, who are also fighting for a European place. So Brentford are going to be definitely going to be up to, they're going to want to beat West Ham, and they're playing at home to West Ham. So I'm just hoping that with, the difference of De Zerbi, I think we have a good chance, although, yes, we are, again, we lost 2 important players. But I've got a feeling, if Tell starts, if Paulinho starts, and potentially he might actually play Tell in the number 10 position with Richarlison as the only recognized striker that we have. And we might actually get a bit of a performance from all of those, because Tell is definitely one of the players that whenever he comes on, he seems to make things happen. He seems to be fighting for survival. And I think, Bergvall is back. He's had kind of mixed games so far, but I think we have a chance because of where Villa are. I genuinely think they're going to want to try to beat Forest. Well, they're both going to want to try to beat each other to progress to the final. I've got a feeling that this is probably the best time. If we were ever going to play Villa away, this weekend was probably the best time to play them. And the other teams around us, Forest and West Ham, both have very, very difficult games away, in my opinion. And they both could lose their matches. So we have to go to Villa with the intention to beat them at all costs. It's got to be like a cup final. I know we say that for every game, and I believe De Zerbi will get them fired up and potentially use this kind of information to say, look, guys, just win our match, and potentially, we could be in a much stronger position come end of Monday once all the games are.
I think it's fair to say, though, Ogie, if we put in a performance like we did against Wolves, although it was a much needed win, we needed to win that game. But if we put in that same type of performance, I don't think we're going to go to Villa and win that game. So it's going to be a very, very difficult game. And I don't know, that's an old cliche, but there are no easy games in the Premier League. Lastly, Richarlison is averaging 0.72 goal involvements per 90 this season, 9 goals, 4 assists in 1,615 minutes. He's third best rate in a Premier League campaign behind the 23-24 campaign and 24-25 campaign, both 0.9 per 90. Is he the man that is going to get us out of trouble? Is he going to be the hero for us?
Well, we haven't got another choice, Chris. I'm not a big fan of Richarlison, to be honest, because I don't. Yes, every so often he pops up with the goals. He does score goals. He does create goals. But there are very rare moments in a game. He spends majority of most matches that he plays in. He's not very good at holding the ball up. He's not very good at getting to the end of balls, and he does miss a lot as well. So he does seem to be a very kind of weak forward, in my opinion. So if things were going better, I would have said probably at the end of the season we should try to maybe sell him on and get at least 2 strikers in to complement Solanke. But at the moment, really, with the injuries that we have no other option, and we have to rely on him. And perhaps that will be the thing, because because at the end of the day, De Zerbi will probably put an arm around him and say, look.
Here's a question for you, Ogie. So imagine this for a scenario. Last day of the season.
Yeah.
Penalty to Tottenham in the last minute. West Ham's game's finished, right? And we need this goal to keep us in the Premier League. Who would you be calling on to take our penalty? Who would you feel really confident that one of our players is going to put that ball in the back of the net?
I would say Tell, Paulinho. I honestly, I wouldn't trust Richie. I don't know. I don't know why. I wouldn't want Richie to take it. I would probably say maybe. I think Tell has got a good. I think he's got a good shot on him. So I would say hopefully he's fit. But Tell.
Will in the comments says here, none of them. This is a big issue because I tell you what, if you ask that to the whole fan base saying, who are you going to rely on scoring a penalty in the dying seconds of a game to keep us in the Premier League? Who's it going to be?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think, definitely. I think De Zerbi should have them all practicing penalties every week until the end of the season, in case something like that happens. But also, I mean, can I be honest as well? I'm not one of these people that enjoy saying this, but I think, a lot of the refereeing against our team this season, especially the second half of the season, has been atrocious. I mean, that's a good point. That's a good point, Ogie. We might not even get a penalty, right?
Yeah,
we haven't been given a single penalty, and we've got 4 games left. Do you think we're going to get a penalty given to us? I mean, considering how many, even just in recent weeks, how many times the refereeing organization, whatever, they came out and said, certain players should have been sent off. We should have got a penalty there and here. I think some of the decisions has been atrocious. Against Tottenham this season. I'm not one to ever say referees are out to get us. I don't think they are, but I think some really, really awful. Like, I know every team gets their fair share, I think, but we got more than our fair share of absolutely atrocious refereeing this season. I think that hasn't helped either. But I think, we need to also maybe look at that. But that's all stuff for the end of the season. But let's just hopefully, fingers crossed, get through this. But I think there's a lot of inquisitions inquests that have to be done at the end of the season. Hopefully, let's survive. Let's stay in the Premier League. And but yeah, I mean, I honestly don't know how someone like Johan Langer can keep his job. I don't know how Vinay can keep his job with the absolute shambles that has happened this season. I mean, look, after last season, we finished 17th last season, and you would have thought a lot of these things would have been addressed last summer, and they would not be putting us in this position again. And we are worse off. We are worse than last season, and it's unacceptable, Chris. I cannot take, if the management, the people at the very top, if we don't see some serious changes this summer, I cannot take them seriously, because they were the ones at the beginning of the season saying, we are going to take this club forward. We're going to be fighting on all fronts. Yeah. Well, we might be about to lose our Premier League status because of them, because of the wrong actions that they've taken all season long, since 1977, apparently. I wasn't even born then. I was born in 78. So there you go. That was the year before I was born, when Spurs last dropped to the second tier of British, football league. It's unacceptable. I mean, what's gone on this season is unacceptable. I think some big heads need to roll at the end of this season. And if De Zerbi does keep us up, I think that man needs to be backed seriously. And I hope, he will be in the summer. I hope, they keep their word and do that. But
yeah, I agree. Positive signs from De Zerbi, and it is just a shame that some of these players are being taken from him so early on and at this key moment in the season. Ogie, always great to talk to you. We'll talk to you again very soon.
Thank you. Take care. Good luck to us. Come on, you Spurs. Let's go this weekend.
Absolutely. Fingers crossed. We're now going to go to Jamie. Jamie, how are you?
I'm all right, Chris, mate. How you doing?
Again, I talked to you and we've got a different manager.
The last time I come on here, Chris, it was when Thomas Frank got the sack. But I've got to be honest, that time I actually said De Zerbi, it'd be a Conte 2.0, but I was wrong because I think if we'd have got him at that time, I think we'd probably have about another 6 or 7 points, and that could be the difference, you know.
Jamie, of course, it is all about the next 4 Premier League games. Have you seen enough in the 3 games under De Zerbi to give you some hope and belief that De Zerbi can get these players getting points in the remaining 4 games? And also another question for you: Do you see us picking up 2 more points than West Ham and getting over the line, even if it is on goal difference?
It's so tight. I've just written it down here. I've got us finishing on 39 and West Ham on 41. But in an hour's time, that could change the other way. We could be on 41 and them 39. But
how did you get to that? What are you predicting?
I've gone. We get a draw at Villa 1-1. We beat Leeds 2-1. We lose at Chelsea and we draw at home at Everton. And I've got West Ham to draw at Brentford, lose to Arsenal, draw at Newcastle, but beat Leeds. But it could change. We could maybe nick one on the last day. I think it's going to be so much pressure on that last day because it's definitely going to go to that. I'd be shocked if it don't. I think Forest need 1 more. I can't see them going down. I think 1 more win and I think they'll be all right. But
that question I just asked Ogie about last minute, and we had a penalty to keep us in the Premier League. Who would you like to take it?
I laughed at the time when he said Tell. Don't get me wrong, he's done well, Tell, lately. But no way would I let him take the penalty. I think I'd let Porro take it. I wouldn't trust any of the forwards. Sounds a bit stupid, but Richarlison don't strike a ball properly. His technique is shocking. He's a bit scrappy. Maybe we're going to need that. But Moani, I mean, he's been awful, Chris. If you watch him went on the telly at home, if you knock the telly, he'd fall over. He's on the deck all the time. He just does what he shouldn't be doing, you know. For a big guy, he's got no strength in him. I just think he's been terrible.
What players do you have confidence in that are going to get us out of this mess?
I think Bentancur coming back's been a big plus. You look at him when he comes deep, he doesn't panic like the rest of them. He's a bit calmer. I mean, Archie Gray wasn't doing anything wrong, to be fair. He was, but I think you might have to go with Bentancur and Polina in the middle because Polina gets a few goals as well. We haven't got many goals, but I haven't got a lot of confidence in him. That's the trouble, Chris. I mean, Van der Ven is a decent player, isn't he? But I don't think his heart's in him lately. You know, I thought he had a great first 6 months of the season. He was the only one playing well, but there's not many that I've got confidence in. And the best players are injured, like Kulusevski. I'm hoping Maddison can play a part in the last couple of games. I don't know how realistic that is. I don't know if you've heard anything, but it sounds like Solanke's out for the season. Though he ain't done great, but he's still another body. We're so short, but then we'll probably get Richarlison injured against Villa the weekend, you know.
Do you know, Jamie, I don't know whether you saw it on Monday Night Football, Jamie Carragher talking about James Maddison, and I completely agree with every word that he said, that, you know, James Maddison needs to play for Tottenham this season, even if it is for 10, 20 minutes at an end of a game, to give us that lift, to give us some sort of creativity. But whether he's going to be ready enough, you know, he's been out all season. Of course, he's been on the sub bench for the last couple of games, but that is only just for the vibe. That is only for the positivity. I've never known that as a Spurs fan, actually, a player to be unavailable but still be named as a sub, but just to be there for the positivity. But De Zerbi loves to be positive, and I'll tell you what, I really like that about him.
Yeah, like I said, when I come on here last time, I thought, he ain't the guy who'll fall out with the ball, but I was wrong, because if we'd have got him, I don't think we'd be going down. I mean, we still could get out of it, but when he speaks, he gives you a bit of confidence as a fan. You think, yeah, do you know what? We could. Yeah. He said, do you know what? We'll go and win all 5 games after that last-minute draw against Brighton. All right, that probably ain't going to happen. I'm pretty sure it ain't going to happen, but it gives you, like, he believes in it, so hopefully the players can keep believing. When Frank was going on, I mean, it was boring everyone. And I was going to ask you, Chris, that Tudor appointment, I mean, I don't know one fan out of all the Spurs fans that would have gone along with that. Was that the worst appointment or the worst decision that the club's made since you supported them? Because I can't think of many worse than that, if any.
Well, I think Christian Gross is up there, isn't
it? Yeah, but like, to keep us up. He's never even managed in the league.
To be a firefighter, and I think it was Teddy Sheringham said that at the same time, that he knows nothing about the Premier League, and I think that was the thing that everyone was really worried about. And when you looked at his record, so-called firefighter, and I know some people have joked saying it's more about him starting the fires than actually putting them out. The only point we got under him was that 1-1 draw away at Liverpool, where we very rarely get anything at Anfield. But let's be honest and frank about it, Liverpool were terrible that day. But some of those defeats, we were very, very well beaten. And I just think that was 44 days wasted, in my honest opinion. But they've gone out now, appointed De Zerbi on a long-term contract. And Jamie, let me ask you about the summer. Regardless of what happens, whether we are a Premier League team or a Championship team, what needs to change at the football club?
Well, the two, Vinay and Lange, they've got to go, Chris. I mean, I wouldn't trust them to run a Bath, let alone a football club. They have been absolutely terrible, Daniel Levy's got to take some of the blame, but we wouldn't be in this mess if he was still here. So at the top, it's got to change, or the owners have got to change. But I think we're stuck with them. It's like you've got the protesting. I agree with what they're doing, but I think they're sort of saying pissing in the wind. I don't think it's going to change anything. I think we're stuck with them until they get a bid that they're happy with. Nothing will change. The recruitment's got to be better because it's been terrible. We've got to bring. I would like to see us get some, if we do stay in the league, some Premier proven players. We let Son go last year, which I thought, he was on the decline. Didn't replace him. Let Brennan Johnson go. I wasn't his biggest fan. We got in Conor Gallagher, so we took a lot of goals out of the team. The recruitment's been absolutely. I mean, Lange. Like Aston Villa couldn't stand him, and now you see why. It's hard to say because we don't know what division we're going to be in. But whatever we're in, I hope De Zerbi stays because he's getting to know the players now. So if it'll be like a head start if we do go down, I hope we don't. But if we do go down, he's got a head start and getting us back up, sort of thing.
We all talk, Jamie, literally every week on this show or this channel that the recruitment hasn't been good enough. Ever since we could go back to when we moved in the stadium in 2019, and Pochettino alluded to it on the overlap in his recent interview. How on earth do a football club like Spurs prepare for a transfer window now? How can they prepare for it, knowing that we could be in the Championship?
You can't. It's being honest, you can't because your budgets are going to be completely different. Whatever you're going to be going for a completely different caliber of player. I'm just hoping that we don't. If we do go down, maybe say we let 3 or 4 of the big hitters go, and we can keep enough of the squad together with the young players coming back from loans, and it'll be enough to. Because if we did go down, providing we don't show up like the whole squad, that we would come back up. We should have enough to cut, especially if De Zerbi stays. He'd be the best manager in that league. He's a good manager, isn't he? So,
who in your opinion would leave if Spurs went down after the Everton game? Who would be leaving in the summer?
I think Romero. I think he's been a shocking captain this season. He was the obvious one to get it at the start of the season, but I've been disgusted with him, to be honest with you, Chris. Van der Ven. Not been happy with him the last 6 months. There's rumours that he's trying to edge his way out. I don't know if he is. Maybe Porro, possibly. Maybe even Madison would go. I don't know. I don't know whether like Coventry could afford his wages if they're in the Premier League. I don't know. But he's a boyhood Coventry fan, isn't he? But there's a few that could go. It's whoever can't get them. I mean, Simmons is obviously going to stay now, so maybe he'll play a part in the last sort of few months. But it's quite worrying. It's very worrying.
Jamie, who in your opinion should start in goal against Aston Villa? Kinski or Vicario?
Kinski, 100%. I called it the other week, and then he come in against Atletico Madrid, and within 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever it was, you're like, what the hell? But he was just a freak incident, wasn't it? He's been really good, I think, the last few games he's played. And Vicario, I get nervous every time he's got the ball at his feet, to be honest with you, Chris. So 100% I'd go with Kinski. I think he's done well.
Jamie, always great to talk to you. We'll talk to you again soon when another new manager's arrived.
Yeah. Good to talk to you, Chris.
I hope not. I certainly hope not.
Hopefully be more positive next time, mate. But Yeah, hopefully we'll stay up.
It's difficult. It's difficult. It's difficult. It really is. But fingers crossed in these next 4 games, because Spurs just need to keep grinding it out and grinding points out, because we're in desperate times right now. But yeah, great to talk to you. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, cheers, Chris. All the best, mate.
Cheers. Right, we're now going to go to Ireland to talk to Noll. Noll, how are you?
I'm good, Chris. Yourself?
Yeah, all good, Noll. Yeah.
I'm liking your haircut, Chris. Very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How are you feeling, Noll?
I'm still optimistic, Chris. I think actually that we've got 4 points in the last three games. In 2 games, we've got 4 points, and 3 points is a wonderful thing. You know, like we haven't won a game all season, and suddenly we put ourselves back in there. You know, I was really dancing around the room the other day when we were actually out of the bottom 3, and then West Ham scored, which was a bit of a bummer. But looking at the fixtures, you know, I mean, it's do or die. You know, there's no point in, you know, being negative about it. You have to do it. If you don't do it, you're in the championship next season. So I think it's possible, and I think we will do it.
I know you used the word negative there, Noll. I think that there are a lot of people trying to be realistic about the situation.
I know it's realistic as well, Chris, but there's a lot of negative people out there as well.
I agree.
You know, and there's an awful lot of people, media, they all want us relegated. You know, I'll be honest with you, the media, I mean, you know who they are. I'm not even going to name them. You know, they want us relegated. This is going to be a biggest story in a long, long time, you know. And I mean, fans from different clubs, like, this is going to be fantastic for them. But I actually think, you know, that you know, they say, like anything in life, you know, if you accept it, you know, and you go out there mildly, or you go out there and fight, you have 4 games, you have 4 cup finals. To me, it's like being, you know, it's like, say, being in a World Cup tournament. Like, with 5 games, one of them we're already down 2 points. You know, it's between us and West Ham. I can't see anybody else being dragged back into it. And, you know, you physically have to win more points. And I really do believe, you know, that we can beat Aston Villa on Sunday evening. A strange time to be playing, 7 o'clock, but, you know, I believe, you know, that's the springboard. And, you know, I think we'll beat Leeds. Chelsea is the one where we've never done anything there. You know, we haven't won there in only once in something like 30 years. You know, 2018, I think it was, when Dele Alli was in his pomp. But you know, they're not wonderful. They're not wonderful either. You know, I mean, you have to be. You know, you have to set up. The manager has to set the team up and say, "Look, lads, you know, it's do or die. You go there. You know, we're going there to win." He said he wants to win all the games, and I think that's the attitude that you have to have. And I think it's, you know, just about, we even goal difference would see us do it. You know, so I'm still confident, Chris. I'm still, well, maybe confident, positive. Hopefully, everything crossed that we can stay up.
Is it confidence, or is it just hope?
It's a mixture of everything. It's a mixture, confidence, hope, desperation. You know, I mean, we're all Spurs supporters. We all want our team to win. You know, this last, you know, you said that you hadn't had a fan show. The last time actually was 5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And was the time with the pineapple on the head, if you remember.
Yeah.
And, you know, I can't even remember, was Tudor even the manager at that stage? I can't even remember. I think he was just gone, wasn't he? Or just about to go? I'm not even sure, Chris.
The amount that we have gone through is just unbelievable.
But Chris, you talked about a penalty in the last minute against Everton.
Yeah.
I would agree with, what's it, Jamie? I would let Porro take it. You know, I think because they have a fantastic goalkeeper whose record of saving penalties, and if it came down to that, Jesus, we'd all die of heart attacks, you know. But it actually could come down to that. That is the scenario.
No, so have you mapped it out, what you think is going to happen in terms of how many points Spurs are going to get in the last 4 games to how many points West Ham are going to get? And do you think it is just, you know, it is going to be either Spurs or West Ham, or can Forest and Leeds be dragged back into this mess?
I suppose if you look at it, we had 34 points at the moment, and you know, we win at the weekend, we're up at 37, and Forest have 37 at the moment. Is that right? No, 39. Forest have 39. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So they could be dragged back into it by Monday night. There is a possibility. But I'm thinking, we go and win against Aston Villa. Right?
Yeah.
I think we win against Leeds, draw against Chelsea, and win against Everton. That's 10 points. It's a big ask, but
Three wins, one draw.
That's what I'm thinking, Chris. I know I'm a bit of an idiot at times, and I'm a bit of a dreamer, but that's what I'm hoping for.
We have only won 2 league games all season at home.
But Chris, this brings us up to 4 games. You have to do it.
I'm just saying.
I know it's a simple thing. If you don't do it, you're in the championship. We could still end up in the championship.
No, what was it like in 1977 when Spurs were relegated? What was it like?
Bloody awful, Chris. It was absolutely shocking. Your first, the guy, the older guy, what was his name at the start?
Steve?
No.
Craig?
No. No. You're very hard on Craig, Chris. You're so hard on him,
What's the name of that old bloke? Craig?
No. He's my vintage, Chris. He was there in 77. He was there in 77.
Manny.
Yeah. Manny remembers it actually. And funny enough, he was talking about, he wasn't sure, was it the season before or the season before that? It was actually 1974-75. We really should have went down. And it was to beat Leeds on the Monday night 4-2 at White Hart Lane to stay up. And Cyril Knowles, the late great Cyril Knowles, you might know who he is, Chris, but he was a left back for Tottenham. And he scored 2 goals on the night. And I think Alfie Conn might have got one of them. And that kept us up. And then we had a very poor season in 75-76. And Terry Neal was the manager. And then he left at the end of 76 to take over at Arsenal. And then Keith Birkinshaw came in. And it was a terrible season, 76-77. The relegation was confirmed, actually, the second last game of the season away to Manchester City when we lost 5-1. And we actually managed to win the last game 2-0 against Leicester. And my hero, Pat Jennings, that was the last league game he played for Spurs. So, we had to go into the I actually saw my first game at Spurs actually in 1978, in March 78, to beat Charlton actually in a league game. And we nearly blew it that season. We were actually favourites to go up, but we came second. I think Southampton might have won it. Brighton, Southampton, and Spurs. So we came in third, and that was the season then, all changed where, they signed the Argentinians, Osvaldo Ardiles and Ricardo Villa. And in that season, actually, they went to Liverpool and lost 7-0 in that season, 78, 79. And, within a couple of years, we were winning 2 FA Cups and, Europa League was wasn't called Europa League at that time, I don't think. And, we had a decent team, then the end of the 80s when Terry Venables came in, and then it all changed again in the 90s with some terrible teams in the 90s. And it was only really Martin Yall, you remember all this was all your ear, Martin Yall, when we started actually, climbing the table. So for the last 30 years, for the last 50 years now, it has been up and down, but we certainly don't want to be dropping into the championship. An awful lot of negative people out there saying, that if they drop in down into the championship, it would be years before they come back. I don't agree with that. I think they would come straight back up again. But we certainly wouldn't want that.
Dixie Dean writes here, so much negativity. I think Noll has been our most positive guest, actually. So there's not any negativity from Noll this evening.
No, because it's do or die, but it's just simple. It's pure mathematics. We have to win more games at West Ham. And looking at the West Ham fixtures, they don't have an easy run in.
There's no easy run-ins for any team.
Yeah. The way the media has it is, you would think West Ham are world beaters. That's one of the earlier shows that we were on earlier the year when I was really so annoyed that
the only thing I'd say about
West Ham beat us.
Well, the only thing I'd say about that is in January, Spurs were 13 points above West Ham.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. We had this conversation in January where if we had won that game, we were virtually relegating them. It would have been 16 points, and then it was down to 10, and suddenly we find ourselves, that we're 2 points below the line. It's a terrible situation. When that was confirmed for the first time, that's a terrible feeling, and we certainly don't want that on the last day.
Now, lastly, what have you made of Roberto De Zerbi? And if it was an absolute disaster and Spurs did go down to the Championship, are you confident that he will stay?
I think he will, Chris, and I really like his demeanour. He reminds me actually of Pochettino. He's young, he's vibrant. I like the vibrancy of him. The positivity.
Yeah.
I like his demeanour, his whole. His whole candor. He looks to be a guy. I mean, I remember seeing, when Tudor was there and seeing the players training under Tudor, and it looked like something, in Eastern Europe. I mean, he looked as if he was, these guys didn't even know who he was. And De Zerbi seems to have brought a spring into their steps. Now, we didn't play that well. I thought we played very well against Brighton, and should have got the result. I didn't think we didn't play it all well against Wolves, but the result was all important.
Yeah.
And this should be the springboard. We need to push on and push into 43, 44 points, and that should keep us up. And I for one think they can do it. And as you say, it's a mixture of everything. Hope, confidence, desperation, whatever you want to say. It's unthinkable, Chris, that a team like Tottenham we're in this position. Like this time last year, we were, celebrating, Europa League, and the great thing about last year, we had no danger of relegation because, the three teams were, well below the line.
Yeah.
This year, it's just unthinkable where we are. And as somebody said it earlier on, I think it was Archie, some of the decisions against us, Chris, is absolutely mind-boggling. I mean, you talk about the Sunderland game. I mean, Robbie should have been a yellow card in the first 10 minutes, and Romero actually did exactly the same foul 10 minutes later. He gets a yellow card. Robbie was already on a yellow card. He pushes Romero into the goalkeeper and stays on.
Yeah.
That could have been a draw. Could have won that match.
Yeah.
And, don't get me started on Romero. Jeez, so I'd be so disappointed in him. He's your captain. He's been yellow carded for the same foul 9 times in the one season. I think the guy must be dim or something. Like, I mean, if you do something wrong at school and the teacher said it to you, you might make the same mistake twice, but not 9 times, and then get sent off twice and miss 7 or 8 games. That's unbelievable, Chris. No wonder there is a malaise running through the club when that's your captain, the attitude that he has shown.
You expect him to go out the door? You want him to go out the door?
I want to go out the door. I actually, even in the Sunderland game, I hate to see the way the season ended for him. But I actually thought he was going to be sent off anyway. I actually didn't think he would actually see that match out. That with the way he was playing, and Kevin Danso, not obviously anywhere as good a player, but he's a fighter. Bit unfortunate for the goal against Brighton. I think Van der Ven will go. Vicario will go. I would be disappointed to see people coming in to try, the vultures trying to come in and pick up some of our best players like Bergvall and Gray. That would be disappointing for me. I think Kulusevski would stay. I wouldn't be too disappointed if Richarlison would go. Mawani would go, obviously. And then obviously we build again, and with a better attitude, and better recruitment, and lessons have to be learned. There's going to have to be serious thinking in this football club about what way this season has been handled, and everybody's been saying about Lange and Vinay. They really must take a lot of responsibility, and the board itself, the owners. I'm not a big favor. People always say, "Oh, get somebody in to buy them," but who's going? Somebody comes in. You have to be very careful what you wish for. Do you really want to be owned by some, I don't know, Arab oil money? I don't know. It's a tricky one.
Well, you also
But,
need someone with you also need someone with £4 billion sitting about.
But that's exactly it, you know. But you know, the injuries this season, you know, incredible. I think I said it to you earlier on. Madison had a knee injury in May, and he was playing challenge games in August. You know, knees don't fix easily. You know, he needed more time. So whoever put him back on the pitch, you know, must bear a big responsibility. And he is not the only person that has happened to. We have 4 ACL injuries in a year.
Yeah.
You know, it's something seriously wrong there somewhere. Like there's 10 players out at the moment?
More ACLs than home Premier League wins now.
Absolutely, Chris. Yeah, it's a damn indictment. Like, you know, when you remember the last season at White Hart Lane, where they only drew 2 games and they won the rest. You know, in the whole season, only dropped 4 points at home, and now we've won 2 games at home all season.
Yeah,
it's shocking. It's absolutely shocking.
Now, always great to talk to you.
You too, Chris.
Hopefully, we'll talk to you again soon after a couple of wins.
Yeah, will you be on a couple of times before the season ends?
I don't know. You might not see me again. I don't know.
No, Chris, we will, of course. We will.
I hope so.
Yeah, no, because I was actually hoping that you would come on soon. You know, I've been watching it out every day for your emails, so I really look forward to all your shows, and you're fantastic guests, you know, from all over the world. And everyone want what I want, what you want, is Spurs to stay up.
Exactly.
And, you know, and things to change.
Yep, indeed. No, we'll speak to you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Cheers.
Come on, you Spurs.
Right, we're now going to go to Darren in USA. Oh, no, we're not. Darren in South Africa.
Hiya, Chris.
I got you muddled up with someone else. How are you?
Fine, and you?
Yes, very good, thank you. How are you feeling right now?
I'm worried, Chris, but I just think we have to be positive. And I think Roberto's been amazing. I think he's come into the club after 2 very negative managers, 2 managers that have really pulled us down and not motivated the players, and he's done the exact opposite. So I'm excited for what could be in the future should he stay at Tottenham.
Darren, what have you made of the 3 games under De Zerbi so far, and how does it make you feel about the following 4 games? Because you know that game against Wolves, there wasn't a lot of creativity, but then the game before that, when you looked at what Xavi Simons produced in terms of the assist for Pedro Porro, and of course his fantastic finish, which is up for the Premier League Goal of the Month award. You know, we're going to miss Xavi Simons, aren't we?
Terrible. Yeah, I mean, that injury, Chris, we were all looking so forward to our first win, but we almost felt deflated after that win because we had lost Solanke, but even more seriously, we lost Xavi.
Yeah.
And of course, now Roberto has to see how he's going to set up on the weekend, how he's going to get that creative spark, because if we're not going to have a creative spark, I don't think we can win a game in the Premier League. Every game is difficult, as we all know. But I got confidence. I think De Zerbi's fantastic, and I think he will do so. He will make it work.
I know we have some people come on here saying that we'll lose these games, and we have some people saying we're going to win these games. But do we have the personnel to grind these results out? Do we have the personnel to be that creative spark, get that goal, be that hero? Do we have those players?
I think so, Chris. We have to take into account Bergvall is back, and I would expect him to be used extensively in the last couple of games. He's a very creative player and someone who could probably fit into the 10, although it does sound like Roberto wants Gallagher in there. I'm not so sure that would work. But if you put Gallagher in a more forward position and a more offensive position with less defensive responsibility, so he doesn't have to run up and down like he always does, we can maybe get the Gallagher of Chelsea back, and that could maybe be a creative spark. We got Bergvall there. Tell is a promising youngster. So, although I'm very sorry to say I don't agree with De Zerbi on Kalabawani. I have to disagree with him on that. He seems to prefer him up front. We probably have to go with him now, but I don't know what he sees in him, Chris.
I think from what De Zerbi said, he don't like many changes from game to game, and he likes to stick with players, and he just likes to swap one or two players. So I don't think you're ever going to see a complete transformation of a De Zerbi starting 11 from game to game.
You're right.
But I completely agree with you. I can't see what Cowlin Moani has brought to this Spurs side this season. Yes, he's done okay in the Champions League, but then Spurs did okay in the Champions League. In the Premier League, one goal from Cowlin Moani.
No, Chris, that's diabolical. And I don't care that he scored goals in other leagues and had a good goal scoring rate. The Premier League is different to any other league in the world. So I'm not in favour of signing overseas forwards. Think how many overseas forwards we've signed over the last, say, 10, 15 years who have been an absolute disaster. I just think of Roberto Soldado for one. It's very hard to adapt to the Premier League.
Darren, I asked a question to a couple of the guests earlier. If it was last minute against Everton and we needed to score a penalty to keep us in the Premier League, who would you like to see take it?
You might disagree with me on this, but I think he's a very dependable player. João Palhinha. I think he hasn't had enough minutes. I think he's shown grit and determination. Look how many times he's popped up with important goals. He's not the type of guy that would freeze, Chris. I can't remember the last penalty shootout that Tottenham actually won, because we've had players that have frozen and haven't been able to do it when it really matters on the big stage. I think Palhinha would be able to do that. I'd have more confidence in him than, I know someone said Pedro Porro, but I think I'd go with Palhinha. I don't know what your thinking is on that, Chris.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout. I think he's been a decent player for us. I take it from what you've said about João Palhinha, you would actually like to see us sign him on a permanent deal from Bayern Munich.
I would, definitely, because I don't think he's been played properly by the other managers insofar as the pairing is concerned. I don't think he's been alongside the right player for him. I think he needs to play alongside maybe a more vibrant and a more attack-minded midfielder rather than someone who won't really progress the ball through the lines as we've needed. But I think he's a crucial player.
Darren, do you worry about the lack of creativity? Because when you look at the game against Wolves last weekend, although it was a must-win, and sometimes you do need to win, scrappy and ugly just to get the 3 points. And at this stage of the season, especially with us in the relegation zone, you need to win no matter what, no matter how. But the lack of creativity, does that worry you in terms of the remaining 4 games? Aston Villa, that's not going to be an easy game. And I know I've said this already, but there's no easy games in the Premier League. Leeds at home, Chelsea away, Everton at home. Where are the goals coming from?
So, Chris, De Zerbi's got a lot of tactical elements to his managerial style. He likes to load up on the one side and then switch the play to the other side. He's got a lot of different tactical arrangements that he can throw in. So with his assistance and having players that are, we've got good players that may not be natural creative players at the moment at the club. We don't have many, but I think with the right coaching and the right tactics, I think we would be able to do enough to get us to nick a goal or two, as long as we tight at the back. Then I don't see why we can't win games. It's all about solidity at the back and then using the strategy, the tactics to create an opportunity or two in the final third. But coming back to your point, Chris, one thing that is very disappointing to me, and this is the first time in my life that we haven't had this. I've been supporting Tottenham since about 1981. We have always had creative players, Chris. We've always played offensively, world-class attacking players. I don't have to tell you about Glenn Hoddle, Gascoigne, Waddle, Darren Anderton. Of course, in later years, we had Bale, we had Van der Vaart. We've always had those types of players. We don't have them in the squad. We've got one, basically, Simmons and James Maddison.
Yeah, let me just say that Nottingham Forest, the full-time whistle has gone now. Nottingham Forest have just beaten Aston Villa 1-0 in the Europa League semi-final first leg. A Chris Wood penalty in the 71st minute. Of course, the second leg will take place next Thursday. But of course, Aston Villa host Tottenham, first of all, in the Premier League on Sunday. Darren, before you go, what's your score prediction?
I think we're going to edge it, Chris. I think we've got to keep it tight at the back because Villa are very well organised, got a great manager, even though he was at Arsenal before. I'll forgive him for that. I think we're going to edge it maybe 1-0. And I'm praying, Chris, that when we get to play that game, West Ham drop points on Saturday.
Yeah.
Away to Brentford.
Darren, anything else you want to say before you go?
Yeah, I just think all of our Spurs fans, the Spurs community around the world, we have to unite, we have to be positive, and we have to love our club collectively, and we got to really, really get behind the club and hope that through the right coaching and the players that we do have fit and available, we do get through the final games and we do enough to stay up. I hate all the negativity. I get stopped everywhere I go, Chris, because I'm always wearing Tottenham gear, always. I get stopped by so many people who absolutely love having a dig at me about Tottenham. And I'm actually quite defensive, and I say, we're a great club. We're going to survive. We got no problem. The people love it. The media are going to love it. So we have to be united and strong, Chris, and positive.
Darren, what do you think that, how would you describe the way that the Spurs fans have been this season then? Because I think there has been moments where the Spurs fan base have been absolutely brilliant. But as you've said, there are moments when people can be, very, very critical. And I do you know what? I never ever criticize on what people say or how people react because everyone is different. We're all different people. I've said on this show many, many times, I've never booed a team off. But of course, we've seen it so often, especially at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium under multiple managers. Thomas Frank, he's Tottenham Hotspur side, got booed most weeks at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and away games. Igor Tudor as well. It's been a really tough season. But what have you made of the Spurs fans this campaign?
Yeah, Chris, I'm like you. I will never, ever boo the team off, and I will never, ever boo or shout at a player for maybe making a mistake. I'm like you. We have to be behind the team because what you're doing is you're just making their confidence worse, and they're not feeling comfortable. They need to come to our magnificent stadium and be happy to perform in front of our fans. It's an amazing opportunity for everybody. So I don't like the negativity. I don't like the criticizing and certainly the booing. I just think that's not on, Chris. And I've been lucky enough. I've seen several games at our stadium, and of course at White Hart Lane before that. And even in a lot of the games that I've seen in previous seasons when we've done quite well under Conte, Mourinho, and of course Poch before that, there were still murmurings in the crowd. Tottenham fans, I think, are very, very demanding, Chris. I don't know what your view is on that, but my experience is we almost want the impossible. We want the perfect scenario all the time. And when we don't get it, then we get on the team's back or players' back. And that isn't a good culture, Chris.
Darren, we'll cover that next time you're on because I don't think that is a 5-minute conversation.
No.
That's going to be a long conversation that one.
And I'd love to talk to you at length about that because, having been a Tottenham fan for so many years and knowing the area, knowing the fan base, I have a lot to talk about.
Yeah. Darren, thanks so much. Great to talk to you again. And we'll talk to you again very soon.
Great. Come on, you Spurs, Chris. Up the Spurs.
Right. We're now going to go all the way to Canada to speak to our good friend John. John, how are you? John, I think you've just put yourself on mute.
Try that. Can you hear me now?
That's the one. How are you, John?
I can't hear you, but okay.
Go on, carry on.
Are we going down? Who knows? Yeah. I live in hopes, but I expect the worst. And if we go down, we're going to be down there sometime. Coming back is not going to be easy. You look at the clubs that are down there, there's only a handful that have not been in the Premier League or the First Division. And there's some pretty big clubs down there that were big clubs and have wallowed in the Championship. And that's going to be our biggest problem. How do we come back? And can you imagine next season playing in front of 15,000 inside that stadium against Lincoln City? It's like playing in the Mausoleum. And that's what worries me. So as I say, are we going down? Are we not? I just don't know. I was talking to my friend on the way home this afternoon. He's another exile person. He comes from Enfield. And he says, are we going down? I said, I don't know. What do you think? He said, I don't know. It all depends on Aston Villa on the weekend, doesn't it? Win that, we're still in the game. That doesn't mean we're going to be safe. Win it, we're still in the game. We only need to lose that and West Ham to win, and there's a gap. And we got even more to do to catch that up. So that's where I think we're at. And doesn't look good. Anyway, thank you to you and to Craig and to the other guys who keep me informed. Always greatly appreciate you. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, John. Thank you. He couldn't hear a word I'm saying. So, yeah, thanks, John. And we will talk to you again soon. Shane, let's come to you. Shane, how are you?
Hi, Chris. I'm okay. Thank you. How are you? You don't sound optimistic tonight.
I don't know. I honestly don't know, Shane. I think the positive thing is that, of course, we got the win last week. I thought it was a very positive performance against Brighton. Unlucky not to win. But this, has to continue. We have to pick up points against Aston Villa on Sunday evening. So, yeah, we just got to keep going. We have to keep going. How confident are you feeling?
I'm going for 2 home wins and 2 away draws.
Yeah,
I'm going for 8 points. I actually think and hope that we'll go unbeaten the rest of the season.
Okay. What gives you that confidence?
I think our manager has set the team up in a sort of very balanced way. I think banter coming back is a big plus.
Mm-hmm.
He creates a level of calmness in there. I'm sorry to see Archie Gray get knocked out a bit, but Bentancur is probably more experienced, and I just think we're a little bit more settled. Although I agree with you about not scoring many goals, I think his priority is not letting the goals in, which is what happened on Wolves. We didn't let a goal in, and we went along. Normally after half an hour we were a couple of goals down. So if we can keep out the goals, we can always nick goals, corners or free kicks, or hopefully a fast flowing move. But Simmons is a big miss for all sorts of reasons, because he plays with a smile on his face and he gets the crowd going. And I couldn't quite get what the medical staff were doing on the side of the pitch. Really, I'd almost say it was gross negligence sort of thing. But you can't say that too loud. But I don't know. It's just Manny or whatever he's called. He's so lightweight. He gets knocked off a ball. Technically, he might be a great striker. He's not for the Premier League. He's just not suited, And but Paulinho, he played well. I think the back played well. Dancer, he's having a good game. I just think the players just need to do their individual jobs. If the defence do their job, the goal we let in against Brighton, Chris, I don't know if you remember. You obviously you do. It wasn't Dancer's fault. The problem was caused by Porro going too far up the pitch, and that was he lost the ball. Then Paulinho went to go and retrieve it near the corner flag, and he got nutmegged a bit, and Dancer was the third level of protection, if you like, and he just got turned quickly. So it wasn't his fault. He was the third line of defence to protect the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
So, you know, I defenders should defend. You know, but what our manager's doing, he's letting the right and left backs go forward, and the what we'd call the CDM is covering, which is Paulinho is covering if the left or right back is attacking. So you've got a level of protection in defence. If 1, 2, or 3 of those don't work, then you're going to let a goal in if you're unlucky. And we were, because it was a good strike as well from Brighton, you know, and that would have been a massive win at home, the crowd, those 3 points. But I'm actually, I've just seen that you said about the Notts Forest winning 1-0. I mean, that may well play into our hands with Aston Villa. They might rest some players the weekend for next Thursday's second leg. We can win any of the games. We can win any of the games. It's just hunger and desire. You could say, have we got enough quality in the squad? I'm not sure. It was very, very bad recruitment last summer, even worse in the January transfer window. And certainly the 2 people that your guests have mentioned earlier have really let the club down. They're the ones where the problem is. The chief executive and the head of recruitment, or whatever he's called. You know, a club like Spurs should never really be in this situation with the financial muscle they've got to buy themselves out of trouble. Basically, that's what clubs do in the old top 6, if you like. You know, it's sad. You know, I want you to be optimistic.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard, Shane. This is probably why I haven't done these shows in 5 weeks, because I feel a lot that we repeat ourselves. What's really happened in the last 5 weeks, for, you know, to get us up and feel optimistic about wins, because when all of a sudden as a Spurs fan you feel that little bit more optimistic and you think, oh, actually, yeah, you know, there's positives here. And then, of course, last weekend we got a positive, as in we won. And then you get Solanke out now for the rest of the season. Javi Simmons is now out for many months. Probably won't see him again until 2027. And it's like, I said the other day, like, just give us a day off.
Yeah.
Like, let's have a normal day. Let's have a normal week as a Spurs fan. Let's enjoy something for a period of time. It's like, even when we won the Europa League, you know, Ange Postecoglou then got the sack, and it was like everyone just, you know, swept the Europa League win success under the carpet. It was like we didn't even really have time to enjoy that win, if I'm completely honest. That's how I feel anyway. But it's just like I said earlier, it's like we're cursed sometimes of like so many things go wrong for this football club. And it's like you think of the unthinkable. And I quite often say, if you're writing a book on Spurs and you gave it to a publisher, I think the publisher sometimes would go, it's a bit far-fetched, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know, how many things happen or go wrong.
It's not boring. It's not boring being a Spurs fan, is it?
Well, I'll tell you what, Shane. There's always something to talk about. You know, there's always something to talk about. That is one thing for sure. But when I look at the remaining 4 games, I've got to be honest, you know, and realistic about it. I do worry about the creativity, and I do worry where the goals are going to come from. Particularly, you know, given the quality of the teams that we'll be facing, and you know, I'm not bigging up Aston Villa, Leeds, Chelsea, or Everton. I'd be saying that whoever we're playing, because there is not an easy game in the Premier League. And
No.
when you think as well, you know, the team that have been the worst team in the Premier League this season, i.e. Wolves, it took us 82 minutes to break them down. You know, so if we play the same like we did against Wolves, Aston Villa, we are going to be in trouble. I don't know. You know, I'm asking everyone the questions today about these results, and you know, are we going to get enough points to stay up? I'm sitting here. I don't know myself. I can't sit here confidently saying that we are going to stay up because of what I've seen, this season under multiple different managers. But what I will say, a little bit of positivity. Roberto De Zerbi, I really like him. I love the attitude, and I love him, trying to instill positivity into this group. And I feel like if he would have been appointed, when Igor Tudor was appointed, we'd have a real chance. But that 44 days for me was a complete waste of time.
Well, we've still got a good chance. I think the percentage is something like 60-40, something in that region.
Yeah.
What I would say back to you is a couple of things. When we drew against Brighton, we played quite well.
Yeah.
When we won against Wolves, I'd say that was a fairly poor performance.
Yeah.
So is it a case of we've just got to win ugly? Or play well? I mean, I'd suspect you would take we play ugly and get the points.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You just need to get points, yeah.
And the other point I was going to say is the running the ball, or running the green, if you like. We haven't had one penalty all season, as you know.
Yeah.
Which is bonkers. But we've also been on the receiving end of some pretty dubious official referees.
Yeah.
So at some point that will turn. And I'd like to think, and hopefully you'll remember this next week, I think we might get a penalty against Aston Villa and win 1-0.
Well, I have been asking that question tonight. If we need to score a penalty in the last minute of the Everton game on the final day of the season to keep up the Premier League, Shane, who do you want to see stepping up and hitting that ball?
Two people.
No, one.
Well, I tell you who I think it's going to be James Maddison. I think he'll be on, and I think he'll play at least 2 games out of 4.
Okay, and if Maddison's not on the pitch, who would it be?
Archie Gray.
And if he's not on the pitch, who would it be?
Pillinio.
Okay.
So I do think we've got to keep Kingsky in goal. I think he's quite assured with his feet and his distribution, and I do think that the defence is more confident with him there rather than the Italian who's going back home, sort of thing. The players we've got playing for us. I've got one question I just wanted to ask you that came into my head earlier when I was listening to your viewers. We've got like a really fantastic academy, pitches and everything. And that must have cost a certain amount of money. And I remember and I'm going off a little bit, but the FA built, something's park in
St George's
Park in Stoke. And they've spent around about 90 odd million about 20 years ago building that. And the FA have now got the youth football feeding through and the technical, and our players are a lot more technical. The national teams, if you look at not the first team, but the other age groups, they're pretty successful over the last 5-6 years. So we've done the similar with Spurs with the academy.
Mm-hmm.
So why aren't we feeding those players through into the first team and reserves? Now, we seem to keep going down this route of buying in these sort of foreign players, if you like, that are expensive or not the best value for money. Why not play some of the youngsters in the last few games and get that creativity and have a policy that surely if you're going to invest £100 million in training facilities, you want to see a payback on that?
Shane, I don't know whether you read or took note of Vinay Venkatesham's programme notes before the West Ham game, and where he addressed the fans, and that was one of the things that he mentioned about the academy players need to be coming through, because I've said on quite a few occasions in the last 12 months, in the last couple of years at Tottenham, we've probably had one of the best academies, a lot of very, very promising players, and they haven't come through the first team. Now, this is under multiple different managers at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, and Stuart Lewis has also been employed by the club, or he was the under-18 manager, and then they've appointed him as the liaison between the first team and the academy. to try and get more academy players through the system. And funny enough, I was talking to Tim Sherwood about this a couple of weeks ago, because he was saying exactly the same thing. Why on earth are these players not coming through? I've been asking this question myself as well, because when you see the quality and when you see other teams in the Premier League doing exactly that, bringing players through the academy, why on earth are Spurs not doing it? And Hotspur Way, as everyone says, whether you're on this show or whether you're on another show or whether you're a TV pundit, you know, a presenter, whatever you are, everyone says exactly the same thing. Spurs have a fantastic stadium, one of the best in the world. And they also then go on about the training ground being one of the best training grounds in the world as well. Yeah. And you got all these players. Why on earth are they not coming through to the first team? You know, your guess is as good as mine. That is something that definitely needs to be addressed.
Well, let me ask you a question back on that, because you've just said the managers have not progressed them on into.
Yeah, but you can say as well. Daniel Levy's statement when Ange Postecoglou was appointed, he went on about Ange Postecoglou, you know, wanting to bring through a number of youth players. That didn't really happen. The only time it did happen is when we had so many injury problems. Now, we had injury problems to a lot of defenders at that time. Alfie Durrington, I know he made his debut, I think it was at Southampton, I think when we won 5-0. But there were times when, you know, a player like that could have been utilised and wasn't. And you've got to ask the question why. And when it happens under multiple different managers, that is a club issue. That is not just one manager making decisions. That is a club issue which does need to be addressed.
That was a question I was going to ask you. If it's over under 3 or 4 different managers, then somebody in that club is saying, no, we want to pay the players that are on X amount rather than the academy players that are on pretty much peanuts comparison. Because the only really, the last player I can remember to come through properly, and it wouldn't, if it hadn't been for Tim Sherwood, Harry Kane wouldn't be the player he is today.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I think that was 2014, something like that. So you've got, with youngsters or with any talent, you've got to give them a chance. And the only way they're going to get any better or shine is by playing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, who was that one who really shone back in Europe? It was either this winter or last winter. You know, youngster. Can't remember his name. I think he's at Rangers now, isn't he?
Marky Moore?
Yes. Why is, you know, there's creativity straight away.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
I would hope and expect Mikey Moore to come back to Spurs in the summer and get a lot of game time at our football club next season, because, you know, you need to play some of these players, because some of the players that have actually come in recent seasons as well, and we've spent a lot of money on, you know, you could argue who's a better player, Brian Hill or Mikey Moore?
Well, I would say Mikey Moore, sorry, not just now, but for the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and he will only get better. There's 2 aspects of getting better there, Chris, is the physical side of it. You only get better by playing against those players. But technically, all the, you just alluded to it earlier, technically all the players in the Premier League are at a certain level of technical ability. It's just that extra 1 or 2% that makes players, you know, stand out.
Yeah.
You know, any team, I think that's where Spurs have really struggled the last couple of years. I think we've been playing a little bit on our history or status, and we've been a little bit, I think we've been a little bit cocky. And you know, where we said, oh, we can always beat Crystal Palace or Brentford, they're just as good as us. We've got to take a little bit of a reality check. Now, if we want to go get better than them again, we've got to spend the money, or we've got to take a chance with the youngsters coming through the academy. Because that's what Crystal Palace do. That's what Brentford do. That's what Bournemouth do.
The other reality check is, of course, that, you know, no team is too big to go down, and that is a reality check.
There's no team any too good to go down. Unfortunately, as being as positive as I can be, the league table doesn't lie.
Yeah.
The league table doesn't lie, and we're in we're in a situation where it's not so much in our hands, because if I think it's between us and West Ham. I can't see Leeds or Notts Forest getting sucked into it personally. Although, again, people would say you should win this. I mean, I think we will win our 2 home games, because I think, and if we beat Villa 1-0 with a penalty, I said it here first. I hope the springboard, because the shine was taken off the win last week with Simmons and Solanke's injuries, but a win was a win, and it's all about building momentum. And our manager he's quite a clever cookie, I think, and I'd want him to stay if we do go down. But it's just hard. It's just hard being a Spurs fan, because you wake up every day and you're thinking, what bloody news is going to be on the, and we are a club that everybody's taking aim at the moment. There's a lot of TV presenters and clubs that would love to see us go down. Probably going to be more of a story than Arsenal,
Yeah.
And that would be funny if that didn't work as well. But I mean, even our chief executive was from Arsenal. I don't understand that. To me, football is about connections and like a special mix of people.
Yeah.
And like when I remember back, was it George Graham managed at Spurs for a while, and I hated that. He wasn't a bad manager. It was just the fact he managed Arsenal. We're Spurs, so we've got to keep going, and I'm hopeful that we'll get something out of Villa this weekend. But if we only get a draw, I don't know where that leads us really.
It'd be interesting to see what the West Ham result is at the weekend against Brentford, and then of course they face Arsenal. That's going to be an interesting one as well, because it means that a lot of fans will be in a real dilemma of who they want to win that game.
Oh, Man City last season, wasn't it? When it's the same thing. So, well, just I just hope for. I mean, I think the frustrating thing for me with Spurs, and I do believe the management and the chief executive. I think we're that close where with a change of ownership at the top, is they've said they're going to open the wallet and spend money.
Yeah.
Now they've said that 2 or 3 times this year. They didn't really back it in January, but January is not an easy month to bring players in. But they could have been a lot more creative than they were. But I don't like spending loads of money on players, but that's the way how much players cost today. I don't think players should be on the money they're on, because it's just obscene. But if that's what you've got to pay for a player, I mean, if you've got to spend 100,000, I mean, for a player, and you've got to spend $500,000 on 5 players to be successful, then that's what they've got to do. You've got to remember, our chairman is something like the 60th richest bloke in Britain. So it's not like we ain't got access to funds, is it?
Yeah. Another huge summer coming up, Shane. I say that every summer. Shane, I've got to move on because I've got other guests to get to. So we'll talk to you again very soon. Great to talk to you. You could talk for England, you can.
1-0 penalty. See ya.
I look forward to it. Cheers, Shane.
See ya. Bye.
Cheers. Bye. Right, we're now going to go to Luke. Luke, how are you?
Hi, Chris. How you doing? You all right?
Yes, good. How are you feeling right now?
Oh, it's an unpleasant thing at the minute because it's just a constant anxiety. The week feels like I'm just wishing the time away to get to the next game to see what's going to happen at the moment, which is quite unpleasant. There's no sort of relaxing in the week between the matches at all, really, and it's a bit of a strange feeling to feel like you're watching other games as well and putting a lot of weight on what's going to happen in them. So tonight I was watching that game and thinking to myself, what do we want here? Do we want Villa to lose so that they rest players on the weekend? Do we want Forest to lose so that they rest players and possibly get sucked into the relegation battle? it's mad that I'm watching other games of football and pinning so much hope on them.
What did you make of the game, Luke? Because obviously I've been live on here. I haven't seen a minute of the game. So what did you make of Aston Villa this evening?
Aston Villa put out the strongest team they possibly could. It was quite cagey. They had some good chances, but Ollie Watkins looked pretty rusty up front. Every time the ball sort of landed at his feet, he scuffed at chances, and I think he's been. I think Emery's been sort of openly critical of him in the last year or two, and there's been rumours that he's going to move on. So I don't think he helped that today, because there was a point where Morgan Rogers cut inside in the box. I took a shot, deflected off the defender, and Watkins had sort of a metre in front of him to put the ball in, and he kicked it straight at the keeper, and he sort of scuffed it as well. So he's not looking particularly sharp. So if if he starts on the weekend, he's not looking too dangerous. But I mean, they don't really have. Anana did get injured today, and they've got is it Camera out as well? So they've got a couple. Those are two key injuries for them. But it's just, I mean, there's no one in Europe that's got the kind of injuries we've got at the moment. So they will be able to field a stronger squad, obviously, and have a stronger bench. So it'd be interesting to see what they decide to do on the weekend, and whether or not they, because people say to me, "Oh, but they're in a good position, because if they do win the Europa League, they get automatic qualification. But then it goes down to 6th in the league table, the Champions League spots. But they've got, I think, City and Liverpool coming up as well in their last few games. So if they end up losing their last 4 games, they could actually, and they're not winning the Europa League, they could completely drop out of the places. So they do need to be focused on picking up points. So it'll be a really tricky game. I was actually, funnily enough, I was sat, I think, about 4 or 5 rows behind you at the Brighton game the other day.
Okay.
I was like, I'm sure that's Chris over there. And then I was like, oh yeah, I've seen your videos before. I can see where you were. But I don't know about you, but when the final whistle went, I was with my dad at the time, and he was just completely dejected. I felt the energy get sucked out of the stadium right at the end when that goal went in. But I felt really positive. I stood there, I stayed almost till the end, clapping the players off the pitch. I felt good, because for the first time in this entire season, and for quite a large part of last season, I felt like I was watching a team that had a plan, that worked hard, moved the ball well, created opportunities, executed their plan consistently across the game. That Gallagher, who since coming in had looked like a round peg in a square hole, suddenly was put into the position that he probably has been the best in his career when he was on loan at Palace. If you remember, he was playing in that kind of 8/10 role, and he was all over the place, and he was pressuring them, and he didn't even touch the ball that much, but he was preventing them from playing directly through. And we saw that as soon as he went off, Brighton seemed to get right up the pitch, actually. So there were issues that De Zerbi seemed in just 2 games to have fixed, that 2 managers, or 3 if you include Ange, hadn't really been able to solve. And I thought, that late equaliser was gutting, but you don't get teams suddenly being perfect at a game plan overnight. But what I could see was huge progress. Obviously, the injuries after Wolves were pretty devastating. So, but I do have faith that I think De Zerbi can do something about it in the next few games, because he seems to have already got quite a bit out of the players.
That's the frustrating thing, though, Luke, isn't it? Because you can see what he's brought, and you can see what he's going to bring. When you look at that Brighton side that he got into Europe for the first time in their history, what a huge feat that is for a manager like Roberto De Zerbi to achieve that with Brighton. But is it too late? Have we left it too late to bring in a manager like this? Because when we're sitting here, in the relegation zone, 2 points adrift, 4 games to go. Like I said earlier, I don't know whether you were on at this point, but that 44-day stint under Igor Tudor, it just seems such a waste of time.
Yeah, it's the reason why it's too late is because the situation we're in now, we've all, I listened to your previous guests who were saying everyone's been asking me, what do you think? Are you going to go down, etc. And whenever people were saying, oh, it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen, there is this point where you can say, yeah, it probably isn't, because there's plenty of time to do something about it. Now, I don't listen to anyone if they tell me they're confident or not confident, because I think it is literally the flip of a coin every single week. That's the problem, is you when you give yourself so little time, the jeopardy is so much higher. Because the problem, I was listening to, I can't remember who was saying it, but someone was saying on the radio that some of the Spurs players came off the pitch and found out about the West Ham score and were really gutted. And I was like, that's so, even your opponent's scores are affecting how you feel about yourself in that week. So, for example, if we go and beat Villa on the weekend, the players will feel really good and boosted by that. But if West Ham win as well, is that going to damage their confidence? You'd never think in a normal league season, when you've got plenty of games left to go, that the result of another team in 1 week alone could impact your confidence. But that is what's happening now. It's every little thing has the potential to derail confidence. But the positive, I would say, is De Zerbi. I think, I don't know about you, but I think everything he said I've liked so far.
Yeah.
And the whole thing about, I don't want crybabies. I want people that stand up and fight and stick with it. And if you're going to come into training and be negative, I'll send you home. And I just thought, thank goodness he's saying that. And I don't want to speak badly of Thomas Frank, because I think he is a good man, but I just could never see him saying that. That's not really his ethos, is it? So what De Zerbi's got is what we need, I think. But yeah, definitely way too late, because put it this way: if West Ham go and win all their games, it doesn't matter what we do. And
well, I was going to say, Luke, I've just pulled up West Ham's fixtures here, and I know the fixtures anyway, but it's more the dates why I've pulled these up. So Saturday, the 2nd of May, right? They kick off 3 p.m. away at Brentford, and then on the Sunday evening, so it's the day later, we kick off against Aston Villa, 7 p.m. And then on Sunday, the 10th of May, they play against Arsenal. Yes, that's going to be a difficult game. They're all difficult games. 24 hours later, or over 24 hours later, we then play Leeds at home. And then on Sunday, the 17th of May, they play West Ham United away. And then we play 2 days later away at Chelsea. And then, of course, on the final day of the season, everyone kicks off at the same time, 4 o'clock, 24th of May. So 3 out of the 4 games, they kick off first. Is this a positive for them? Is it a positive for us? How do you see it?
I think the general consensus is those that play first get the advantage, because they set the tone. But like I said, I don't think you can look. When after that Brighton game, I felt so positive, right? And I looked at the fixtures and I thought, I think we can do this. And then during the Wolves game, when Solanke went down injured and Xavi went down injured, it changed again. I felt like, if those two are out, we're going to be in trouble. We won the game. I thought maybe we won't be. And so I actually think you can't tell what's going to happen in 2 weeks' time anymore. I think you can only tell maybe what's going to happen in a few days. But playing first gives you a massive advantage in that, because if West Ham, well, the only thing that is playing in Spurs' favour at the moment that will be in West Ham's heads is the goal difference. And it's like an extra point, because if they only draw at Brentford on the weekend and they play first, that they will not walk off the pitch thinking that was a good point, because they will know that if we win, we're above them. So they have to win. So I do think that puts more pressure on them. I think it's almost as if the 2 points in the goal difference it's just not enough to feel comfortable. But But yeah, I think
all right, Luke. Let's come to the fixtures. So on Saturday, Brentford against West Ham. What's your score prediction?
1-1.
1-1. So that gives them an extra point. They'll be 3 points ahead. Then Spurs play Aston Villa. What's your score prediction?
1-1.
So it goes back to +2. West Ham Arsenal.
I think West Ham lose that game.
Okay, still 2 points ahead of us. And then we play at home against Leeds.
Yeah, I'm going to be there. I think we beat Leeds.
So we go above West Ham by 1
point. Yeah.
And then West Ham go to Newcastle.
Draw.
Okay, so we're now equal on points. Chelsea away for us.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So it goes to the final day of the season.
Yeah.
What happened?
We both win.
We both win. So we stay up on goal difference.
On goal difference. And that's what I'm saying. I think it's an extra point at the moment. Because I think the goal difference is 6 or 7. That's not going to close, I don't think, unless we get absolutely battered at some point, which I can't see that happening, because fortunately we haven't been ravaged in defence yet. Hopefully that doesn't happen. So I can't see us getting taken apart, and I think that will, the players will know that. De Zerbi's a smart guy; he'll know that if we're getting taken apart by a team and they haven't scored yet, I think he will realise perhaps we need to shut up shop a bit here. And yeah, I think it's gonna come down to goal difference, if I'm honest. And those I've held on to those results for the past 4 or 5 weeks. Actually, I've been trying to predict every week, and so far, other than I think their win against Fulham, I had it right so far. So, but I think the other thing is, it's how do we play in each game? Because when we go to Chelsea, right, if we have lost at Villa and say they've put a couple of goals past us, and West Ham have won at Brentford, we have to get something at Chelsea.
Yeah.
And historically, we don't get anything there. And I mean, I won't go into it because we could talk about it till we're blue in the face. But the officiating against us recently has just been horrendous, and you just feel like that's ripe for something like that to happen. But we have to get something with very little sort of creative flair at all. I really think what we need to see in the next 4 games is somebody become something they haven't been yet. I don't know, that sounds a bit dramatic, but whether it's Conor Gallagher suddenly starts scoring goals, or somebody moves into a more forward position. Maybe it's Bergvall, who plays in the 10, which I know is not necessarily his natural role. Somebody's got to step up and do something in the next few games. But I think it's week in, week out. We could end up seeing a very defensive performance against Villa, get a point, beat Leeds, and think, let's just go to Chelsea and park the bus. It's horrible, but if you leave Stamford Bridge with a point and you leave Villa Park with a point, you put it in your hands, don't you? So, man, it's tough, but it really is at the moment. It's every week changes what the next few weeks are going to be.
So if West Ham beat Brentford on Saturday, Spurs travelling to Villa Park on the Sunday, how are you going to be feeling, Luke, if that happens? Because they'd have a 5 point. It'd be a 5 point gap. If Spurs then went to Villa Park and got nothing, do you think it's over?
Yeah, that's down to the players, isn't it? If the players decide it's over, then it is. I do think, if you look at the grand scheme of things, you look at the 4 games, what is the likelihood of that Brentford game? I don't think West Ham will lose. Brentford have been on, their form's been dropping, but at home they've had a ridiculous number of draws in recent weeks. So the likely score is looking like a draw, but if it's going to go to either a win or a loss for West Ham, it's more likely to tip into a win for them. So if you already know that, and you're looking at Spurs at Villa, and you're saying, we think a draw would be a good result, but more likely to go to a loss than a win, you can balance it out, because when you look at, then they've got to play Arsenal and they've got to go away to Newcastle, whilst we have Leeds at home. They could get nothing from those two games and we could get 3 points. And then it comes down to potentially the last game. So I think that if they think it's over, if we lose on the weekend and West Ham win and they think it's over, then it's over. There's a great expression, the person, I can't remember it now. How does it go? He who thinks he is wrong and he who thinks he is right are both right. Something like that. I can't remember what it is. But if you don't believe in yourself, you're right. You're going to fail.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you do. If you do believe in yourself, you're more likely to succeed. So they cannot let a defeat at Villa Park knock them back. They have to realise that West Ham have got tough games coming up. They've got to just bloody fight tooth and nail. I mean, put it this way: if any of us were young enough and fit enough to get out there, we would run ourselves into the ground, and so the problems you've got is players thinking, I thought this the other day, I thought, are players seeing the injuries now and going, oh, but the World Cup's coming up, I don't want to, and I thought, no, they can't be thinking that, because they must be thinking, if I don't win this game, I'm going to be playing in the Championship on 50% wages next year.
It's interesting, Luke. You should say that, because Craig and I were talking on the phone the other day, and we were talking about injuries. We were talking about this exact subject, about players being worried about injuries before the World Cup, because the World Cup is just around the corner. But you look at the injury to Javi Simmons. That wasn't a tackle. That wasn't any, impact at all. So, it just proves that an injury can just happen just like that.
I know, but 5 ACL injuries in 2.5 years.
It's crazy.
Is not normal. I think that's way higher than any other club in the Premier League. People have been talking about the pitch, but we've been playing on that pitch for years, and I don't think they've changed it. So, the pitch has been there for 7 years now, and it's only in the last 2.5 years that those injuries have increased. And I believe I'm right in saying that only one of them was actually on the pitch at Spurs. Of course, it's possible that the playing on the pitch frequently could wear you down, but there's something fundamentally wrong in the medical department, because it's not, we've all seen this, it's not just the injuries themselves, it's the way they respond to them. So if you look at Kulusevski, Odebear, Dragusin, Maddison, and even recently with Xavi, they were all made to get up and try and run off the injury, which anyone would tell you worsened it. So I just worry about I'm worrying about all parts of the club at the moment. So it's nothing unique, but I really feel like if at the end of this season the club don't come out and make a statement by changing the medical team or saying something openly about the medical team, I think everyone's going to be up in arms, because it's just going to continue. We're going to see the same problems year in, year out. And why is it that there are teams that seem to have far fewer injuries than us? And the problem we've got now, and I think this was what happened with Xavi against Wolves, is when you are in this position, you're thinking, we've got to fight harder now. Now I've got to run further. Well, that's when you're pushing your limits a bit harder, because you're desperate to win. And when you put yourself in that position, you are more likely to get injured, because you're sprinting a bit further, you're pushing a bit harder. And it's in, you can tell it's in their heads. And a great example of that is the Palace game, when the ball went over the top. Van der Ven is experienced enough to know that allowing the opposition to score and having 11 men at 1-1 is a better situation than giving them a penalty and a red card. That's a crazy decision. It's not even a decision, is it? If you were offered it in one in each hand, you'd take the equaliser and the game level with 11 men. But in their heads, they've become so desperate not to fail that they are pushing themselves beyond their limits, I think. And that's what's injuring them. That's what's forcing them to make mistakes. It's a real psychological problem. And it's not a surprise to see the club then trying to bring in a psychologist in the last few days as well by advertising on LinkedIn. I don't know how successful that's going to be for them, but that person's going to have their work cut out for them, I think.
Well, they've done this a lot, Luke. They've changed a lot of medical staff, and funny enough as well that Scott Munn in a recent interview in Australia, he was talking about Tottenham's injury problems when he was there under Ange Postecoglou, and he said that Spurs, they wanted to change a number of things, but they didn't change everything that they wanted to. They only changed half of the things that they wanted to, and you would have to. You'd have to ask now, that an investigation should take place, or, a lot of time must be put into, this injury crisis at Tottenham, because everyone is talking about it. It's absolutely ridiculous. The amount of injuries that we've had, the length of time that these people spend out, as you mentioned there, it was right in front of the away end. Javi Simmons went down. He was by the corner flag. He was then up on his feet. And then, as you said, he came over with the physios, 2 guys either side of him, and they told him to, jump up and down, jog on the spot, etc. And we actually heard, the away end actually heard him cry in pain and fall to the floor.
I heard it on the telly.
Off.
Yeah, you could hear it on the telly. You could hear him shouting on the telly. I think he was right next to a mic, so you could hear him scream as he went down.
Yeah.
The thing is, you could. I'd love, if anyone knows more than this, please correct me. But the previous week at Brighton, he gets cramp and he goes down with cramp. We've run out of subs, so he's got to hobble about and he keeps stretching it about and he keeps running. I know for a fact, having injured myself many times playing both rugby and football, a lot of injuries come from a muscle being weaker in some way, either because you haven't trained it properly or because it's got tired and fatigued and it supports another muscle system. And in doing something, the muscle fails and the muscle system it's supporting tears, ruptures, twists, whatever it is. He's playing against Wolves on the back of a serious cramp, which suggests that his lactic acid buildup and all the rest of it is causing him serious issues. He's likely gone into the Wolves game with his quad and with his thigh, basically, or his hamstring, weak from whichever one he was cramping in, weak still from that game. Even though he's had a week to recover, it's probably not enough. So when he's then sprinting to get the ball back, and as I said, if you watch that moment and you see the ball that he's trying to get, let it go, man. Like it was going off the end of the pitch. It doesn't matter, but he's fighting for everything because they're so desperate for everything. But he's chasing him. He pushes himself too hard. That muscle system can't support that leg. And if he can't support his leg, his knee twists and his ACL goes. And that's what happens. But I don't have a degree in medical science. I've just, been to the gym and torn my calf a few times and asked the physio, why did that happen? And he said, oh, you didn't train this muscle properly. It's too weak. You tried to do this and you tore your calf. This is not high level stuff, but these people are being paid enormous amounts of money and they don't seem to be able to sort that out. It's crazy. So I think it's the same thing with James Maddison. James Maddison had just come back from an injury. He'd had a long period of time where he hadn't been playing football. And then he was playing a game in searing heat in South Korea. And what happens? He tears his ACL. It's the same sort of thing. So there needs, like I say, there must be an inquiry of some sort. If the fan groups aren't pushing for that, I'll be really surprised because it's at a complete level of negligence now. But I think it is in all sorts of areas. You said about them not hiring the right medical people. We've seen it with the coaching staff of teams. I mean, I can't even believe I'm saying this, but we actually sacked a guy that had never even arrived at the club for his first day of work because his work permit didn't turn up.
Yeah.
We got rid of Tudor and we sacked him as well. I mean, you remember when Nuno came in, he wanted his backroom staff. Levy wouldn't let him have any of his backroom staff. And look how well that turned out. We've been doing it for years. I don't know why. I was slightly concerned when I saw that De Zerbi's, I can't remember the chap's name, but his main guy, his main number 2, hadn't come with him, because I thought, oh, not again. They've just, said we want the prize pony, but we don't want anything that comes with it. It's a very, very strange situation, but I think, unfortunately, what it does is it builds this picture that the people at the top are really, really failing the club in so many decisions, and they either need to hand it over to people that know better or could do a better job, or they just need to really sort themselves out. And this is why, in some ways, I have this kind of slightly awful feeling that in some ways they at the top of the club deserve relegation, because they have, and this is people over time. I'm not talking about just the people at the top of the club now, have made so many poor decisions at this football club over time that it's almost like, really, this is the slap in the face they need. The problem is, who suffers, really? It's us, the fans, that have to watch that, take the crap from everyone else constantly.
Look, it's a really good point. And I'll tell you what, the amount of years that I've followed Spurs, you always get a mixed fan base and mixed opinions on a lot of subjects. But I think now everyone is in agreement that so many poor decisions have been made at the football club. You as a fan, what do you want to see changed in the summer if Spurs are a Premier League team, or indeed if Spurs aren't a Premier League team and we've gone down to the Championship? What needs to change, in the boardroom? What needs to change on the pitch for you?
Well, I think the first thing, ironically, is that when Vinay Venkatesham came in and we were like, wow, he's doing interviews and he's talking to us. We've never had that before. And then that disappeared, didn't it? So the communication they promised should return. They need to be honest and blunt and say, we've been doing a bad job, but this is what we're going to do. They need to tell us that they know what the identity of the club is, what kind of football they want us to play. We've definitely got a manager that I think us as fans, we know can adopt that style of play. So that bit's in place already. And I want them to see them actually buy some players and move players on that are no good for the club anymore. And this, I think Spurs have always had this weird thing. I don't know if it was Levy's thing or if maybe it's the Lewis's generally, but they almost had this fear of how much they could lose on an asset from what they'd originally spent on it. And they never seem to see that assets are supposed to, as football players, are supposed to depreciate in value over time if they're of a certain age when you buy them. So, for example, I really think, he could be our saviour in the next few weeks. I'm not banking anything on it, but Richarlison really should have been moved on at the end of last season, and somebody else should have been brought in to replace him. But there's this fear, we paid 60 million for him, and if we sell him now, maybe if we give him another season, he'll have a good season, he'll be worth a bit more or something like that. That they need to be a bit more ruthless and say, like Liverpool are, move the dead weight on, get the money you can get from it, bring new players in. The other thing is, when you look at our squad profile in terms of age, we've got a large number of youngsters. We've got a large number of just entering peak talented players. And we've got one or two players at the upper end of being a bit older. And we've got nothing in what they call the experienced category, almost nothing. So that's players that are sort of moving from maybe 27 to 30 in age, have done some time in that league, played for another team, got experience of it. Up until before this season, when we brought in Palhinha and Kudus, before that, I think we were something like 12th in the league since 2019 for players purchased with Premier League experience. I mean, what you want to do well in the Premier League, but you keep gambling on people from other leagues and whether or not they're going to be able to get up to pace. And then when they can't, you've got to loan them out for years and then sell them on. I mean, you look at players, you mentioned Brian Hill earlier, Lo Celso and Ndombele, like huge wastes of time and money because there was poor recruitment. Yeah. So I want them to go out and say, to be honest, actually, Chris, they've already done a bit of it because it's kind of laughable because it's an if we stay up thing. But Robertson and Senesi experienced players who fit in that category I was talking about. So they've already sounded that out a bit. I think they have realised they need more players of that kind of age bracket. Because when you've got moments like the one we're having now, you need someone who's maybe 28, 29, 30 in the team to pull those players together. When you've got a lot of young players and young PKH players, sort of 22, we've seen it with Van der Ven, the pressure on him recently. He was okay in the last 2 games, but before that, he was really struggling with being the captain and dealing with it all himself. Anyway, so I think they need to give De Zerbi what he needs and go out and make some impressive signings. They need to buy some players that show some ambition. They don't need to go and buy a £100 million player. But an example of a quite, I think, ambitious signing would be going to Liverpool and saying, right, Alexis McAllister isn't starting every week. He's got a great relationship with De Zerbi. What do you want for him? And he's the sort of player that would come into a De Zerbi midfield, know exactly how he wants to play and make it tick like that. And I used to watch him. I go down to Brighton every now and then because I just live just north of the stadium. And I have to tell you, like under De Zerbi, I've been down there for a few years, and it's not the loudest stadium in the world, but the fans are great. It's a nice stadium. It's a nice place. It's actually a pretty good place to take your kids to watch football. But in the De Zerbi years, it was raucous, because the football was exciting. And at the centre of that was Alexis McAllister pulling the strings. He won the World Cup while he was there, and he was in that Argentina team. And that's what earned him his move to Liverpool. That would be the sort of thing I'd want to see. I want to see them go, we want this player. We'll pay you what you want for him. We're going to be ambitious here and go for it. But I've seen no signs of it. And they wheeled Langer out after the January transfer window with this statement. And a lot of people are attacking Langer, and maybe it was him. But I can't help but feel like the club said, right, this is what we're going to say. We're going to say we didn't want to panic. And it's looking really misguided now. It's looking a pretty poor decision that they didn't do a little bit more in January.
I think there's a lot there, Luke. When Langer said in an 8-minute video that there were only 33 transfers done across the whole of the Premier League, I think that wound a few people up. When you look, and it's not just hindsight, is it? We know, what happened last season under Ange Postecoglou, and I just, some of the decisions that have been made, some of the decisions that haven't been made have just been really poor. What have you made of Vinay's time at Tottenham? Because a lot of people seem to blame Johan Langer singly. But of course, Vinay is making key decisions at the football club as well. Would you be surprised to see both of them at the football club next season, regardless of what league we're in?
Well, it's so hard to say, isn't it? Because if I like to be, I think you know this of me, I would like to be very much go on what I know, less than what I feel. What I know is he promised good communication. He started with that. It looked good, and then he disappeared. I know that he then produced, was it an article or an interview where he started pointing fingers at Daniel Levy and the way he'd left the club. I mean, that was bizarre. That was really strange. And also speaks to the fact that I think Vinay was an appointment of the Lewis family at the time that Levy was there. So that tells me they would probably like to keep him. What I can't tell you is, has he done anything? What has he done week in, week out? Has he made things worse? Has he made things better? I have no idea. Well, it's the same thing with Langer, but they are the faces of it, aren't they? So when there's fingers to point, it's at them.
I was going to throw in, we heard from Thomas Frank in a number of press conferences stating that Spurs were going to be really ambitious at the end of this season. And of course, I spoke about this earlier, I touched on it certainly, about Vinay's message in the programme notes ahead of the West Ham game. And he identified, he said a lot of what all of us fans have said on shows like this about, the recruitment, the wage structure, the way that we need to integrate more youth players into the first team setup, etc. And there were a lot of things that you read it and you were like, wow, they get it. They absolutely get it, and they understand, all of our frustrations. They understand it. And then, of course, they brought Conor Gallagher in the January transfer window. Apparently, he's on £200,000 a week. So they broke the wage structure at the football club. And we're led to believe that this will be an ongoing thing, an ongoing theme in the summer. Roberto De Zerbi, they obviously wanted to go down the route of a permanent manager rather than an interim until the end of the season. Of course, we heard from Glenn Hoddle yesterday stating that him and Ogie put themselves forward about, taking over after the Nottingham Forest game, etc. So, there's a lot there. But how many times, Luke, have we had these types of conversations? And you mentioned the word itself, ambitious. I always say, show some ambition. We want to see ambition from this football club. We want to, have the best players at our football club. But then you've also mentioned players like the Celso, Ndombele, etc. So we have spent money, but it's been spent badly. How confident are you that we will be ambitious? And also, let me throw in, when was the last time you got excited about a transfer? When was the last time we signed a world-class player?
Exactly. I mean, I remember someone saying they felt the last time Spurs signed a great player was Klinsmann. I think there's been some exciting ones. I mean, I was quite excited by Xavi. I thought Xavi was an exciting pick, and I thought Xavi was a great signing, but not for Thomas Frank. I think the problem with ambition is it's a package. It can't be, we'll be ambitious in a bit here and then we'll be ambitious in a bit there. You have to have the whole thing going, and they made completely the wrong choice of manager in Thomas Frank. And I still maintain I think he is a good manager and a good person, but the wrong person for Spurs. He was completely the wrong person for Spurs. And I think he approached it in the wrong way as well. He might have been able to approach it differently, but he came at it completely wrong. And then you hear Johan Langer say, and I couldn't believe this. I was having a drink at the time. I nearly spat it out when I heard him say, "Oh yeah, De Zerbi was our top choice in the summer." I was like, "What? You can't say that now. That's like you're saying that after the fact. Yeah, this is the guy we really wanted all along. We've got him with 6 games left, and you can have him in the Championship if you're not careful." So that's not ambition, is it? Ambition is not saying we finally got the guy we wanted because we had to sack the one that came in when he didn't want to come. That's not ambition. It made me think that, and this is crazy to say because how can they not? But they just don't really know what they're doing. I think the biggest problem we've got at the club is we don't have either a person or a group of people actually pulling in the same direction towards a singular vision. And actually, Thomas Frank said many times in his press conferences, we have a shared vision. We've got a shared goal. We talk about it all the time. But I just wonder if I were in their position that Thomas Frank was telling me how he wanted to play football, I would have said, Thomas, that doesn't sound right to me. You mean that you're really focused on set pieces, but you're not really that interested in how we attack with the ball in play? Like, I think we really need to focus on this a bit more, Thomas. It doesn't seem right to me. And if he's like, no, don't worry, I'm just going to focus on set pieces, I'll be like, you're not the right guy for the club then. We're supposed to all be putting the... But he's going in press conferences, yeah, we're all on the same page. They weren't even in the same books. Like, I was just so... Like, the whole thing, I was so confused by it. And I think big mistakes were made. No one was really pulling in the same direction. Of course, the one thing you can point to is we had something that was extremely unhelpful, which was massive upheaval at board level and at executive level after the season had started and after the window had ended, right? If they'd done all that within a week of the Europa League final, they would have gone into the transfer window with Levy gone, Vinay in, Langer there, whatever, and they would have gone ahead with it, and they would have perhaps had a better chance of a shared vision because they would have had some signings that would have come through under that new model. But the last signing was a Levy signing, wasn't it? So the whole thing for me was just a complete mess. They were projecting confidence without actually having anything to back it up. So no, I've got no confidence that they will be able to show a change until I actually see it. I need the evidence in front of me. And to give you a really damning example, and someone mentioned earlier about the arrogance at the club. In January, West Ham signed 4 players, one of whom was Axel Disasi, who I thought was rubbish, if I'm honest. He's been brilliant for West Ham. He's been absolutely rock solid at the back. And when they've had injuries, he's come in and he's sorted them right out. And they are much tighter at the back now. They also brought a striker in who ironically bumped Callum Wilson further down the pecking order, and he came off the pitch the other day and Wilson scored, because that's them having squad depth and options, and they could bring on a striker that can change a game. And, what did we do? We got a Conor Gallagher, who I still feel has time to prove himself in a Spurs shirt, and a Brazilian left back who nobody wants to play, even though he looks quite talented. Not what we needed, So the first opportunity they had to prove to us that they were going to do things differently, they failed. And then they come out with this message of, we don't want to panic. You should have been panicking. Now we're all panicking and it's too late. Now I'm actually reading up the rules of loans in the Championship to see whether or not we could get Will Lancashire back next week. I mean, that's how silly is that?
Yeah. Craig and I were having a conversation a couple of days ago on the phone, saying about the Championship clubs. When do they enter the FA Cup? When do they enter the Carabao Cup? Do you play in the Johnson's Paint Trophy and all this? And honestly, it's where we're at. Look, very quickly, where do you think Spurs would be if Ange had season 3? Would we be in the same position? And also, would we be where we are if Thomas Frank stayed at the football club?
So I had a right old argument with my dad about this at the Brighton game the other day at half time. And it might have been because I'd made sure I got to the ground early and I took advantage of my 2-for-1 pints. But he is adamant that if Ange had stayed, we would be up there competing at the top of the league.
Did he?
I think he thinks that. I half agree. I don't think we'd be in this mess. And I'm trying to summarise my thoughts very quickly, is that I think that Ange set a psychological precedent in the team last season. He told them winning a trophy is the utmost. We've got nothing to achieve in the league. We're not going to get any higher. It's okay to lose Premier League games. And the players took their foot off, and we all saw these pathetic games when we were doing really well in the Europa League. We were playing terribly in the league and we plummeted down the table. And he said in his overlap interview, I knew we weren't going to go down because the bottom 3 were already relegated. Fair enough. When you got someone who the players buy into so heavily, and clearly they did, they clearly loved him, and he sets that psychological precedent, it's almost like he's the only one capable of unwinding that and convincing them, right, now you got to go for it again. Now we've got to fight in the Premier League. Now we've got to go harder. We're going to leave Europe aside. We're going to fight for the Premier League now. And if you rip that away and you bring someone in with a character like Thomas Frank, who's not very forthright and commanding, and he's telling them we're going to win games on set pieces.
Well, hold on. In his first press conference, he said, one thing I can promise you is we're going to lose football matches. That's not exactly the best start, is it?
Yeah, and he also said, if you don't take risks, that is taking a risk in itself.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, not sacking you was taking a risk, mate, and that became a risk in itself.
Yeah.
So he didn't stick to any of the principles he thought he was going to achieve. That's why I really think that he struggled. My problem with it is I just don't think they would have bought the players that Ange wanted in the summer. The squad may have still had injury problems. Still the same medical staff. So, players would have still had ACL injuries, I think, probably, particularly with the running they were doing under Ange. I think we would have been in a better position, but I think it still would have soured under Ange this season. And I think that Thomas Frank, if he was still in charge, we'd be relegated already.
Luke, I don't know whether you remember, on these fan shows, we always used to get a lot of Australians on. And I used to talk to a lot of Australian people, and they have slowly kind of just disappeared and don't really come on this channel or watch the channel or keep in touch with me anymore, which is a great shame. You get the odd one or two. But, you know, I got very friendly with a lot of Australian people, and they seem to have just disappeared like month by month. But it just seems ironic as well, the fact that Spurs are in this mess. There's so many Australian people against the decision of sacking Ange Postecoglou, particularly after winning us, a trophy that we haven't won in such a long time. And then in the summer, Spurs are going to New Zealand and Australia for the summer tour. You couldn't write it, could you?
Oh man, I'll tell you what, I feel like somebody, if there is a writer at the club, they're a comedy writer, you know.
Well, I've said this for ages. It's like you write a book and you send it to the publisher, and the publisher's like, "I'll come in. It's a bit far fetched." I always say this.
Yeah, they say no, it's a melodrama. It's fine. It's just what it's supposed to be. We should turn it into a musical or something. I think the way it's going, I mean, honestly, yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that. I mean, I think, to be honest, if you were a fan of the club because there's an Aussie manager, first Premier League Aussie manager, so it's something to be really proud of. And look, you've said it before, I'll say it as well. He is a legend. I love him to bits. If I see him, I'll shake his hand and thank him. I'd buy him a pint if I could, you know, if I bumped into him. But my God, I saw some terrible games under him as well. So, you know, it's been a difficult few years, Chris. I don't think we've had a lot of joy. I think that sort of half season under Conte, there was quite a lot of happiness there because of what we did to Arsenal. But we've been in miserable times, I think, since Pochettino left, really, and the mistakes have been the sort of driving force for a gradual decline and rot, unfortunately. I never thought it would come to this. I thought we'd have a season where we'd finish 10th, and everyone would be pissed off with that, and something would happen. Not this. So my biggest fear, sorry, I'm going on a bit, but my biggest fear, and this is very doom and gloom, we go down, the valuation of the club plummets, the Lewis family don't want to sell, but equally pumping money into the club loses them money, so they're less keen to put money into the club. This big summer that was promised never happens, and maybe we sell a lot of players and use that money to buy a kind of championship winning team, but then how do we turn the club back into what we want it to be in the Premier League? At best it will take years. At worst, you know, we see the Lewises in a few years' time give up and sell the club for a reduced fee. So we all know that that their valuation is way inflated above what everyone else thinks the club's worth. It's an unpleasant situation, but I am every week. I'm there with my shirt on. I'm shouting for the team every week. I've got tickets to the Leeds game. I've got tickets to the Everton game. I'm going to be there screaming my lungs out in the stadium. And that's all we can do, right? That's all we can do. And if we do go down, and it's 46 championship games next season, I'll do everything I can to see the funny side of it rather than the miserable side. And maybe I'll get to go to some away games next year. But really, it's all about the fight now. And come on, we can do it. We can do it.
It's funny, Luke. I've had a few people, even in the comments on this stream tonight, say that if we do go down to the Championship, will I still go to every game? Of course I will. I don't just stop supporting the club because we're not in the Premier League. I tell you what hit me hard, during that first season under Ange, about not having European football. That was really hard, not having European football for me. When we're not in Europe, that is not a good thing. I'm so used to going to those European games. I absolutely love the European matches. Some of my favourites to go to. I keep saying last question because I could literally talk to you all night about Tottenham. Talk to me about Roberto De Zerbi, because you saying that you've gone to a number of Brighton games, particularly under Roberto De Zerbi. Some people were worried when the appointment was made at Tottenham because they've said that he could be another Antonio Conte, another fiery Italian, We've seen the way that he left Brighton, although they speak very favourably and very complimentary about him. And of course, he also left Marseille. But when you've heard the press conferences, particularly the pre-match ones at Spurs so far, he speaks very, very complimentary about both his previous clubs, Brighton and Marseille. How do you see this panning out with someone like him?
Well, a few things to say about him. When he was at Brighton, Pep Guardiola was asked, how do you keep reinventing yourself, Pep? Aren't you at the forefront of football? And he said, no, it's not me, it's De Zerbi. And if you don't want that man at your club, you must be mad then. You want that sort of manager, right? The person who is at the forefront of something interesting and different and changing things. I spoke to some Brighton fans on the train on the way back and after the game the other day, and they said that it was some of their best memories of the club, and they've been supporting the club for 40 years, these guys. And they were like, some of their best memories. And as I said, I went to a couple of the European nights as well, and it's fiery, it's passionate, it's you know, he wants the team to attack and be front-footed. I remember people saying it a long time ago when we still had a manager. He feels like a Spurs manager. He feels like the right kind of manager for us. He is fiery. He does have fallouts with the board. And I can see that if this board, we just spoke about it, if they don't back him, he will fall out with them. But in some ways, I think fair enough, because like if they didn't back me, I wouldn't just sort of quietly go, well, okay, in the press conferences, I'll just sit there and say we're trying our best. I think I'd be like, no, they're not backing me and I'm trying to do this. I kind of, that pressure I think needs to happen. But something really interesting is happening here, Chris, with De Zerbi. He has not been in this situation before. He's not had to take over a club. I think I'm right in saying he's never taken over a club at this point in a season. He's always started a season with them. He's never had to fight for survival before. And the one thing you would say is, how are you going to feel? In fact, I'm going to ask you a quick question, Chris. How are you going to feel end of the season, right? If my scenario that I just gave you, we win against Everton on the last day of the season, we stay up on goal difference. How are you going to feel in that stadium compared to when we won the Europa League?
I think it would be very different. It's funny, actually. I spoke to Craig about this as well, and even Gareth, channel regular, Gareth actually said to us the other day, how on earth are you going to record a podcast saying, welcome to the Spurs Chat Podcast, we've just been relegated? And I said, what if... I said, you know what? I haven't even thought about that, but I know what you're saying. If do you know what? How that day pans out? Because if West Ham are winning and then we're drawing, of course, then they're going to be out the bottom three. We're going to be in the bottom three. That day will be absolutely nail-biting. So I don't think that I'd be in a position to be celebrating like we've won something. If that is your question, I don't think I'm going to be sitting in that stadium as though we have won something, because
you're right.
There will be relief. And I'm only guessing this. I can't tell you how I'm going to feel on that day if that does happen. But I think that I will feel relief. But I think I'll also feel like, bloody hell, this can't happen again. I already feel like that. Like I've said, Luke, I haven't recorded one of these fan shows for 5 weeks. I found this really tough. I found this period of supporting Spurs really upsetting and really tough for me, because I go to every game home and away. And I tell you what, some of the games this season have been really tough. Some of them have been absolutely draining. Sometimes the way I feel, it's draining. And sometimes the last thing I want to do is come on here talking about Tottenham. And talking, you know, sometimes when Craig has recorded the podcast for me, hosted the podcast, he's done me a real favour, because sometimes you just want to get home and not talk about Tottenham. And it's funny because I go to work, everyone knows I'm a Tottenham fan, people want to talk about Spurs. I bump into people in the street, they want to talk about Spurs. Like sometimes it's like, I want to have a day off. I want to not talk about Tottenham at all, but it's impossible. But I know what you're saying. You're saying, would it be feeling like we've won a trophy? No.
But I think that there will be, no, you're right, it won't feel like winning a trophy, but it will be powerful emotionally. There will be a strong wave of emotion over that stadium on that last day if we stay up. And if you are De Zerbi and you've done that, you've got that team, you managed to, I mean, okay, let me give you a little stat here. You know, like a stat. No one has ever had a run of games like we've had at the end of the season and stayed up. And it's happened, I think, 6 times in history. No wins for 10 plus games from January. No one's ever stayed up and done that. Now, if we do it, right, we've beaten the odds. We've got a manager who's come in, completely turned around a team that were utterly useless. He's done it with the worst injury crisis in Europe. It would be a monumental achievement. You're right, it wouldn't be like winning a trophy, but it'd be a massive achievement. So for him going into next season, having done that, my God, he's the bloody king around the place. He can walk around with a crown on his head and we'd all bow to him.
Right.
Like,
I get that, Luke.
Position.
I get De Zerbi can celebrate of what he's come in and achieved. But do you think that the players would be criticised if the players are wandering around like they've just won a trophy and they're celebrating, you know, like they've won something?
Oh yeah, of course they will. Like, you know, someone like Gabby Agbonlahor on TalkSport loves to have a pop at the Spurs players doing things like that. Someone would say something like that, yeah, for sure.
Which team was it a couple of years ago where they escaped relegation and they were celebrating in the changing rooms, etc.? Roy Keane looked at it and just looked absolutely disgusted.
Yeah, wasn't that quite a long time back? Wasn't that Sunderland the last time they were in the Premier League?
I don't know.
I think it was something like that. Yeah, I remember that, and he was like, "They got nothing to be happy about." But I think that it's more the depth of decline. And to be honest with you, Chris, you're absolutely right. You're not alone in it, mate. It's happening to me. It's happening to my dad. I'm just lucky that my kids are too young to think about it at the moment. But every day at work, people saying to me, "Oh, you won't go down, will you? You won't go down." And I work with a lot of Palace fans. And before that Palace game, right, they're all going to be, "Nah, you'll beat us. We're on bad form." And I said, you obviously haven't watched Spurs recently.
Yeah.
And I went to that game and I was very fortunate, actually, I should say. One of your listeners actually gave me his ticket to go to that game. So got in touch with me and gave me his ticket. And so thank you, Patrick. I really appreciate that. But I was sat in his season ticket seat there in the East Stand and I was on my own. There was no one around me. After I think the second or third goal went in, the only bloke that was near me got up and left. And I thought, he must be going to loo. Never came back. It was before half time. And I have never experienced that. I've been a Spurs fan for 37 years. I've never experienced that.
Which game are you talking about?
The Palace game. Yeah.
I said that on the podcast after. It was really bizarre. The atmosphere inside that place. And when that third goal went in, it was like slow motion. And I said at the time that I've only ever witnessed that once or felt like that. And that was when Lucas Moura's third goal went in at Ajax. I've like that slow motion. But of course, that was a fantastic moment. This was on the other end. And yeah, it was just like unbelievable. And I think that everyone in that stadium was just in disbelief.
Totally. Yeah. And it was just such a fast capitulation as well. The thing is that before the game started, the fans were loud. They were really giving it some, like it was quite a good atmosphere, and it just sucked out of it. So yeah. But I think on that final day, I will feel, if we stay up, very emotional, and we'll not be able to help that.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, Luke. Hopefully, we can talk about how we felt on Sunday, the 24th of May. We'll put a date in the diary. If we do stay up, then you can come on the next day, and we can cheer about it and tell everyone how we felt.
Yeah,
it certainly won't be feeling like I won a trophy. I tell you that.
No, yeah, definitely not. Oh,
right.
dear.
Thank you so much. We'll
Cheers,
see you
Chris.
soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Right, we're now going to go to Abdallah. How you doing? Hello?
You just got to give me a moment, buddy. Just got to give me a moment. Hey, how you doing?
I'm very well. Yourself? Where are you calling from?
Very good. I am from Pakistan.
Okay, great.
You know the country?
Spurs fan right now.
Not too good right now, actually. I mean, no words to say, but we've been suffering, man. We all have been, but can't help that right now. But it's been very hard. It's been very, very hard, though. I've been listening to you. I've been listening to Spurs fan. It's been hard. Yeah.
What is it like supporting Spurs over there?
Not too many fans, though. Not too many football fans in Pakistan. There are some, but not too many Spurs fans I've met.
Abdallah, what have you made of the season so far, and what are your hopes for the next 4 games? Realistically, what do you think is going to happen?
Right now, we're just emotional, I guess. Right now, it's just hard to think anything. And I guess, second end was the main thing. I guess that's where it all started, I guess. And I think it was the right move to bring Frank in, but maybe we weren't aware of how good he was or how bad he was. I don't know where it all went wrong, but second ends I think was the main thing for us that took it all away.
I've just read underneath your name. Is it really 4 a.m. there? You're talking to me.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it is 4 a.m. Yeah. I just came home after work though.
So, what do you think for the next 4 games, the remaining 4 Premier League games? What are you predicting? Aston Villa away, Leeds at home, Chelsea away, and Everton at home. Are Spurs going to stay in the Premier League?
Yeah. Villa's going to be a tough game, though. Villa's going to be a tough game, but all hopes, I guess, that Wolves. I hope the Wolves win can change things for us. As Roberto said, a 1 win can change anything. So let's hope that 1 win. This could be that 1 win. So, but let's hope Villa will be a tough game because they're pushing for the Champions League. It's going to be hard. They're going to be doing all in. So, I guess we'll get points in the Leeds game. We'll get points in the Everton game. Just worried about the Chelsea and the Villa game, though.
So, do you think that we will be a Premier League team next season? I think we've lost him. We've lost him. We're going to go to our final guest of the evening. We're going to go to Italy to speak to Simone. Simone, how are you?
I'm fine, Chris. I'm fine. Here we go.
Simone, how are you feeling as a Spurs fan right now? 4 games to go. Are you confident that Spurs will be a Premier League team next season?
I'm gonna show my percentage if you wish, but if it's 50-50, it's 50-50, and now the situation is absolutely dramatic. I was listening to your show very, very carefully, and I agree with many points. But at the same time, I need to underline something that is very, very important. This club, this team has lost its identity. And I'm someone that believes in tradition. For example, Villa Park, Villa Way is a massive ground for Spurs tradition. In the last decades, Tottenham were absolutely brilliant. I remember many huge wins. But you can play with tradition when you've got your own DNA, your own identity. When you see this team, when you see the spirit, when you see this team play, I don't see identity. I don't see the strong DNA. It's not about results. Of course, results are what they are, but this team lost the identity. Before the end of the season, we need Mothers back in the team as soon as possible, because Mothers is maybe the only one that can provide something to the bench, something to the DNA of the club. Then the situation about injuries is ridiculous. I think that in the summer, whatever happens, that there has to be a huge rebuild in the medical department. That has to be key, because we are talking about maybe 4 or 5 ACLs in the last 2 years. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely incredible. Then, on the end of the day, what to say about Roberto? Roberto is a brilliant manager. He has got some huge ideas. He's Italian only in the ID because he's very, very Spanish, if you wish, in many, many aspects of the game. He's brilliant in terms of building up from the back. He has got some brilliant intuitions, but I don't know if it's the right answer right now. 4 games to play. There is no comparison in football. There is no precedent in football. That I never saw a club sign a manager with 5-year contracts. 5-year contracts in this situation. So I hope that both Vinay and Lange know what they are currently doing, because the idea is that they clearly lost the plot from a very, very long time.
Simone, what have you made of the appointment of Roberto De Zerbi? And interestingly, and I know we've spoken at length about this before, of course, you being Italian, Antonio Conte, that famous rant after our draw away at Southampton.
Yeah.
Would someone like Roberto De Zerbi give someone like Antonio Conte a call and say, what happened at Tottenham?
100%. Great point, Chris. Absolutely great point. First of all, Roberto is a manager that in his second years, he used to make this Antonio Conte's rant. And Tottenham is an environment that in the second year of a manager let the managers explode, just like it has been for Conte, for Ranch. So it's an explosive deal, the one between Tottenham, this bird, and De Zerbi. So many people are saying, now we need to avoid the relegation, then you'll see the De Zerbi ball. De Zerbi is a huge character, and you have to let him build what he wants to build. If not, it's gonna be hard.
Simone, what do you make of the reports, particularly in Italy at the moment, about Spurs goalkeeper Vicario signing Inter Milan?
Yeah, there are huge chances. For what I got to know, the bird of Inter de Milan still hasn't taken the final decision, but they are talking with the entourage, with the agents of Vicario. Vicario is keen on the move. Vicario wants to come back. Vicario retains closed his era at Tottenham at the end of the season. So we'll see what's going to happen. And I hope that Roberto De Zerbi knows this fact and let Kinski to be the main goalkeeper, the starter, till the end of the season.
Do you think that is going to be the case?
I think that is going to be the case. Vicario was horrendous this season, let's be honest. I didn't like either his behavior, his attitude. He is always there shooting to the defenders. He doesn't take responsibilities. And on the set pieces, it has been a disaster. So, very, very bad season for him. And many players after Bilbao, maybe they thought they were legends. They were not.
Simone, with the remaining 4 Premier League games, what are your predictions for these 4 games? How many points are Spurs picking up?
First of all, it depends on the results that on Saturday West Ham will pick at Brentford. If West Ham will be able to go to Brentford and win the game, it's harder. It's very, very harder. If Spurs will be able to keep this distance of 2 points till the next weekend, so when West Ham will play Arsenal and Tottenham will play Leeds, I think that the chances to stay in the Prem are gonna be more.
What's your gut feeling?
Watch them 50-50. 50-50, Chris. I hope the best, but I'm expecting the worst, just like everyone. We are swimming, we are dancing, we are swimming in these kind of waters that we are not used to. We are not used to this kind of waters. With them, the club, the environment, they know how to swim in this kind of waters. They know how to fight in the relegation battle. If you look at the faces of Tottenham players, look, for example, Richarlison, Matty Tell, even Conor Gallagher, they seems completely lost in some aspects of their games. So the situation is dramatic.
It's a very different approach, isn't it, from Igor Tudor coming in? Because Igor Tudor, in the first couple of press conferences, particularly after losing 4-1 at home against Arsenal, he pretty much said that we were poor in defence, poor in midfield, poor in attack. He pretty much said everything was terrible at the football club. But Roberto De Zerbi, a very, very different approach. He's being very, very positive, trying to instill positivity into the group.
Yeah, completely. I completely agree. Every Igor Tudor's decision was terrible from the start till the very end. Roberto is clever because he knows that in 5 games cannot have his players to play his football. So at least he wants to, how can I say, strike the right shots of his players, and he has been good in give them back a little bit of confidence. Then he is playing some principles of big bench boats. Maybe he's gonna try it harder. There is a reason why I trust Roberto even in this situation, because he's someone that really bleeds and lives for football. 21 hours per day, trust me. So I think that at the end of the day, maybe he can have his reward. We'll see. The situation is difficult because if you saw Tottenham playing, for example, at Molineux, Wolverhampton away, in this kind of average team, you need to give the ball to Xavi Simons to transform the action. From the midfielders to the strikers, you need the quality of Xavi Simons. Now he was clicking, and then in his best period, an ACL, 7 months, out till 2027. It's absolutely incredible. It seems like a malediction, a sort of jinx at Tottenham. Tottenham are cursed at the moment.
Yeah, I've said that a few times this evening. Simone, can you quite believe the position and the situation that Spurs are in? Because, 4 games to go, sitting in the bottom 3, 2 points adrift. It shouldn't be like this. And this isn't me being arrogant as a Spurs fan. We should not be in this position.
Yeah, I completely agree. This was, if you think about the roster, the team at the start of the season, I was expecting maybe at the best Europa League, at the worst a middle table position at the end of the season. You simply couldn't expect a situation like this. But if you delay the sacking of Thomas Frank, and then at the end of the day, you appoint Igor Tudor is ridiculous. The appointment, the process of the appointment is absolutely ridiculous. Vinay and Lange were not even able to appoint an interim coach that knew the Premier League. They called Paratici, "Hey Fabio, do you have maybe an interim coach in Italy? Because we don't know what we can call." So this is the process that paved the way to appoint Igor Tudor. I don't think Vivian, Lange or Vinay knew who Igor Tudor actually was. And this is something unacceptable at top level like Premier League football, NBA of football. So it's absolutely incredible. It's absolutely incredible. 6 weeks of Igor Tudor really transformed the dimension of season, because West Ham came Nottingham Forest came, Leeds came. So this is absolutely a dramatic situation.
Simone, of course, we've had many poor moments, really down moments this season. But at what point during this season did you think, because a few people have said this evening that, we had time, so we all thought that we were going to get out of this mess and we were going to, come away from the relegation zone. Also, as I said earlier this evening, in January, we were 13 points above the bottom three. Yeah. We were 13 points above West Ham. But at what point this season did you then start to think we are in real trouble?
Yeah, first of all, Daniel Levy would have pulled the trigger before. In which points, maybe for Thomas Frank, the defeat at home early January against West Ham.
Yeah.
That was key. And for Igor Tudor, I would sack him after the Northern London Derby, after one game. The interpretation, tactically, of the Northern London Derby was a disaster. Playing with back three, with a team that never played with the back three, against arguably the best team in the league at that time, that was Arsenal, was absolutely horrendous. Playing Paligna as a centre back, unacceptable. So many mistakes. Then, of course, what he did during the first half to the poor Kinski in Madrid was horrendous as well. Then, when you lose to Forest, we all knew before the international break that the Igor Tudor era was coming to an end. But if you lost 3-0 at home against a direct opponent for the relegation, to avoid the relegation zone, was a clear message that this situation will go down to the wire. And I hope the best, but I'm really expecting the worst. For me, already this weekend is going to play a massive part. Because if West Ham will go to Brentford and win the game, and they are able to go to Brentford and win the game, and Tottenham go to Villa Park and don't win the game, we are talking about -4 or -5 points. Yeah. 3 games to play. Then we'll see. We are lucky that the Villa fixture will be between the first leg and the second leg of Aston Villa in Europa League semi-finals. We are lucky because they are already there, already in top 5 position, so they can rest some players, some key players. But at the end of the day, there are many injuries at Tottenham, guys, right now. So Roberto has to start with the solidity, with the players that can perform, with the fighters. So I'm expecting Paligna. I'm expecting Paligna from the start. To be honest, up front there are many problems. There are no players, so you need someone as well that can bring the ball from the midfield to the strikers, and who can take this job, because Odobert is out. Xavi Simons is out. Mothers, for what Roberto told us, is not really. So the situation is very difficult.
Yeah, there's a lot of hope and there's a lot of wishing right now. You mentioned Fabio Prasci earlier, and I know that throughout all of the years that you've been on this show and on this channel, you've spoken very favourably about Fabio Prasci. What did you make of his return, particularly after the ban that he had? What did you make of his return to Tottenham? And then it was very short-lived, and now, of course, he's working for Fiorentina.
It's strange because there is something that we don't know. What can I say? In his private life, many months ago, he met a new girl, Italian girl, a famous actress. So maybe he decided to move back to Italy for this reason. And then at the end of the day, his work at Fiorentina has been already brilliant, because 5 months ago, Fiorentina was like Tottenham, even worse. Fiorentina in Serie A was at the bottom of the table. Now they are there already safe. So Paratici left Tottenham. Tottenham is in this situation. Paratici went to Florence, and Fiorentina are staying up.
So, Manny, what do you make of the actual appointment to have 2 sporting directors? Is this a usual thing? How do clubs in Italy normally do this? Because there were a few eyebrows raised at the time of saying 2 sporting directors, can that really work?
Yeah, absolutely strange. In Italy, it's not possible. In Italy, you should have a more balanced and organized.
Because we hear they want to do it again. They want 2 sporting directors at the football club to work alongside Johan Langer.
Yeah, for what we know, the Lewis family wants to confirm again Vinay, and under Vinay, Lange and a new sporting director. So the new sporting director should work again with Johan Lange. Is absolutely incredible. And if it was Lange that paved the way for the appointment of De Zerbi, and Lange clearly stated that De Zerbi was his first choice for the summer, and I think that Lange will stay, and it's incredible. This is something incredible, unique, because the results are the worst of the last 40, 50 years old, and you cannot keep the same directors, you cannot keep the same medical departments, you cannot keep the same players. Relegation or not relegation, in the summer, someone has to make revolution in every department, both in technical and then outside the pitch.
So, Manny, what if Spurs did go down to the Championship?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's a difficult one.
But I think Mothers will stay. Mothers will stay at Tottenham, even if Coventry has gone up.
Well, I was going to say, because you and I normally talk a lot about transfers.
Yeah.
So, surely this squad would be absolutely decimated if that did happen.
Yeah. I'm expecting clearly Romero will go. Romero will go even if Tottenham avoid the relegation. Van de Ven is a top player, even if he as well is not performing at the top level right now.
Do you think that them 2 would stay if Spurs are a Premier League team next season? Do you think Romero and Van de Ven are on their way out regardless?
Romero will go. There is a fracture between the Bird and Romero. I think that it's pretty clear he wants to go. He wanted to go even last season. When a club captain writes that kind of stuff on his social media, and no one from the board tell anything, first of all, you're not a serious club, because a serious board will never let this kind of things happen. There is a fracture between Romero and the club. I think Roberto De Zerbi would dream to work again with Romero, because Roberto De Zerbi is a big fan of Argentinian football, a big fan of Romero as well, and they speak Italian in the training ground. They speak Italian. They know each other for a very, very long time. But I don't think that Roberto would be able to change the situation. Maybe Mickey van de Ven will stay, and the club will give him the helmet of the club if Tottenham would be able to avoid the relegation.
So, Manny, earlier you mentioned James Maddison. Jamie Carragher on Sky Sports on Monday Night Football said that James Maddison will need to play if Spurs are going to get out of this mess. Even if it is for the last 10, 20 minutes of a game. I completely agree. I said very similar a couple of days ago as well. Do you think that Spurs will risk someone like James Maddison? Because, of course, the last couple of games he's been on the bench, but he's been on the bench, but he's been unavailable. When have you ever seen a situation like this?
Maybe 10 minutes to go at Villa Park. Free kick from 20 yards, from 20 meters. I will pick James Maddison in for 10 minutes, 5 minutes. He is the one that maybe in 5 minutes can change the trajectory of the game and the trajectory of the season. Because he's Tottenham. He really is Tottenham. We need that. We needed that. It seems like when Sonny departed to the USA, Tottenham lost that identity, that DNA. It's not easy. If you think about the players that are on the pitch, foreign players that will never be actually Tottenham fans, and I'm thinking about Matistel that on January wanted to go alone to Paris. I can make you a lot of examples. Players will go. Few of them really loves the club, and it's difficult. 5 years ago, you had Toby, Super Young, Ben Davis as well. Ben Davis would have been absolutely massive in this kind of situation for the dressing room, for his experience, to show to the younger players what means to play for this club, for these fans, for this environment. And we lost a little bit of that, Chris. We lost it.
So, Manny, how long do you think Roberto De Zerbi will be Spurs boss? And also, if Spurs were to be relegated, do you think that he will manage Tottenham in the Championship?
Yeah, because he's a man of his words. So if he told to the press conference, to the journalist at Hotspur Way that he will stay if Tottenham get relegated, he accepted this deal in every condition, I think that he will stay to build again. Yeah. I think that he's mad. He's crazy. He's a little bit crazy because he accepted this challenge, and this challenge is a very, very difficult one.
You mentioned Matisse Tell a minute ago. He's just turned 21 this week. Bergvall, of course, is 20. You know, it's big reliance on two young players, for the creativity in the team. And also, I suppose we're also relying on the likes of Richarlison and Kolo Muani. Talk to me about Kolo Muani, because not a lot of Spurs fans are saying any positive things about him.
No, neither me. I was never a big fan of Kolo Muani.
Is there any chance we can see more?
We haven't seen more for 8 months, Chris. So I'm not expecting to see more in these last 4 games. Then football is magic. In football, anything can happen. For me, Kolo Muani is a very, very good player in Italian football because he runs faster than the other defenders. In Italy, he can play his parts. In England, no. In English Premier League, no. He's one of like others. He's a good player, nothing more. So his dream in the summer was to come back to Juventus. He never wanted to join Tottenham. And in Tottenham, I want to see players that really care about the club, even if in this situation. This kind of values, guys, are the most important things. Big Ange was absolutely right when 2 years ago he clearly stated that he wanted players that wants to play for Tottenham and not to play Champions League football week in and week out. Because at the end of the day, 2 years later, we are in this situation.
So only 2 final questions for you, and I'm going to repeat questions that I've asked other people this evening, just to get your opinions. If Ange Postecoglou had a 3rd season at Spurs, where would we be in the Premier League table now?
Middle table team. Many goals conceded, many goals scored, many wins by 4-2, 3-3, huge losses at home. Against him talking about his set pieces, but we will never be in this kind of situations. And maybe in FA Cup or in Carabao Cup, he will let us dream once again. For me, what they did to Big Ange, the start of the summer, don't let him to take his season 3 was abysmal. You needed to give him the 3rd season. It was a sort of outrage. Now you do this kind of stuff if you are Real Madrid. If you always wins and you can pick on choice the way you want to win with playing different kind of football. If you are Real Madrid, you can take actions like that. If you are Tottenham right now, so 7th, 8th middle table team in the Prem, you cannot do something that it's a sign. And 8 months later, 9 months later, we are in the worst situation. But remember my feelings, my ideas. The original scene was 7 years ago, November of 2019, when Daniel Levy decided to get rid of the best Tottenham manager of the last 20, 30, 40 years. That was Mauricio. And once again, my dream, that was Mauricio to be back at Tottenham, will never be reality.
Have you seen the recent interview on the overlap with Pochettino?
No, my plans for tonight was to have the show with you. After the show with you, I'm gonna see the overlap interview.
Yeah, there's a lot of Spurs stuff in there, well worth watching and listening. Last question, Simone, and I've asked this to a few people tonight. A moment in the game against Everton on the final day of the season, last minute, Spurs get a penalty or even a free kick outside the box. If it was a penalty, and it meant that scoring this goal, because West Ham's game is over, so scoring this penalty would mean that Spurs stay in the Premier League. Who do you want to see step up and strike the ball?
You can already imagine my answer, James Maddison. Even 1 minute, 2 minutes.
What if he's not on the pitch?
If he's not on the pitch, Bentancur, Rodrigo Bentancur. Because he's got the Uruguayan personality to go there and to shot. It was amazing. If you think about you've
gone full circle. Do you remember what you said about Bentancur and
yeah.
You've gone full circle on me.
Yeah. But I remember Rodrigo penalty against PSG. We were in Udine. I remember his penalty was perfect. So I think that in the important times, important penalties has to be taken by the ones that have got the courage, the ones that are brave enough to take the penalty. And Bentancur is one of them. Is one of the most experienced player in the pitch. So I'm thinking about Bentancur, Palhinha, or Conor Gallagher. One of those three.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say before we go?
Come on, you Spurs! Everyone with me in Italy the press people. They know that they know my love for Tottenham, and people ask me, even in the street, ask me about Tottenham. What about the relegation? What about the relegation? What about the relegation? We'll see.
What did just quickly, Simone? What do the Italian media make of it? The people that you talk to about your love for Tottenham and to see Spurs in the relegation zone, are they surprised?
Yeah, everyone is surprised to be honest. They are very, very curious to see what Roberto De Zerbi can do at Tottenham. Roberto De Zerbi is someone that actually divided the public opinion in Italy, because there are the ones that loves the way he plays, and the ones old style, proper Italian style, very defensive, that don't like the way De Zerbi plays, the way De Zerbi interprets football.
Yeah. Simone, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time, and hopefully we can talk to you again soon when Spurs are hopefully safe.
Whenever you need me, Chris, big hug.
Thank you so much. I'll speak to you soon. Cheers. Right. That is the end of the fan show. Thank you so much to all of the guests that have appeared on the channel this evening. If you would like to appear on the channel on a future episode, please do just send me an email. It's tottenhamfanchris@gmail.com. Thanks so much for all of your support. As always, remember that all of these episodes are also available on all major audio platforms, as well as YouTube, Facebook, and on X. Enjoy the rest of your week. We will see you for another edition of the Spurs Chat Podcast after the Aston Villa game on Sunday evening. Stay safe and well. Come on, you Spurs.